Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 425. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, Dr. Norge, and joined as always by my co-host Jim. You may think I am sick, but what you don't know is that I'm Evil Jim from the future, here to take over the show. So says the Sensei of the Whatnot Segulin and the Duke of You-Know.
How's it going, eh?
On this episode, Jim and I are going to kick off with a discussion about the ending of, not the ending, issue 50 of Batman Eternal, recent events in the Endgame storyline, but also we're going to go through the Convergence solicits that just came out and talk about some of the reveals with new costumes and status quos for characters. Also, now that we have the solicits, some of the details that we found out about certain titles that are in there and how we're feeling about it. So that's our whole opening segment is really about Post Convergence DC. And then we have a discussion about three recent favorites. We're going to be talking about Grayson number 8, The Flash number 39, and Wonder Woman number 39 as we begin our road to Convergence. We are proud members of the Comics Podcast Network, the League of Comic Book Podcasts, and the InfiniteComics.com podcast partnership. Sponsoring this episode is DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Over at DCBService.com. This is Convergence Month, and this is actually Month 2 to order all the titles from Month 2. I wanted to spotlight, though, we're big fans of Gail Simone, and she's going to be writing Convergence Nightwing Oracle number 2. And this stars the pre-Flashpoint Dick Grayson and Barbara Gordon, and also the Flashpoint Hawkman and Hawkwoman. I'm particularly excited about these because it's Gail Simone writing Hawkman and Hawkwoman. And it's going to be an oversized issue, which it looks like all of them are going to be, giving a sneak peek into what's coming up in the DC Universe after Convergence. So this 2-month event, this is $3.99 regularly, 40% off, only $2.39. Remember, they do have that bundle that if you want to get all the issues, all those tie-in issues of Convergence, you can get them at 50% off by doing them in that bundle. So keep that in mind as well if you're looking to do that. So you can save an extra 10% off of them by buying them in the bundle, which is a great deal. Over at InStockTrades.com, they have their deals of the week up. And they have things like the Avengers Omnibus hardcover, Volume 2. This is an omnibus. It's 50% off, only $49.99. Avengers by Kurt Busiek and George Perez, 50% off, only $62.50. There's just a lot of really cool things going on over at InStockTrades.com. They're always doing amazing deals of the week, and I like to spotlight those because I want to encourage people to start checking out that website a bit more because of the fact that they have those deals, and it's a great way to save more money. I'm a big fan of that. But on their regular deals, for example, they have the Superman Wonder Woman hardcover Volume 2. That's 42% off. It's a $24.99 book. It's only $14.49. And it collects Superman Wonder Woman 8 through 12 in the annual number 1. Plus Superman Wonder Woman Futures End number 1 and Wonder Woman Futures End number 1. And that's written by Charles Soule with artwork by Tony S. Daniel. So it's a great chance to get caught up on that title if you haven't been reading it. That's been one of the great series that's come out recently too, is that Superman Wonder Woman series. So I want to shout that out. I want to thank DCB Service and InStockTrades.com for continuing to support our show. And Evil Mr. Segulin, what kind of a podcast are we?
Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth into plotline, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're discussing on today's show. So if you haven't read the books, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
Let's talk some comics.
Nice work, Atom. What are these characters up to?
First of all, Jim, welcome back, because what people don't know, that maybe if you haven't checked out the website and all that, you've been sick. I mean, we went to record last week, and you sounded awful. You had like a roller coaster of a week, because you were feeling bad a couple of days that we were going to record, but you sounded good, and then you started to feel better, but sounded worse, which isn't conducive to a podcast recording. So I know you're still under the weather, but thank you for joining us today so we can get back and kind of do some recording. But how are you feeling?
Oh, I just feel wonderful, as you can tell. And periodically, there may be sudden silence from me, and that's when I'm running out the room to hack up a lung again, because it's all in my lungs and respiratory stuff, and when I start coughing, it doesn't end calmly, and it's pretty nasty and disgusting sounding, and I don't want to make anyone get nauseous when they hear me just what sounds to be me losing my lunch, because it hits me like a hammer, and it's just one of those things where it keeps going and going, and you gotta, it's not pleasant, and everything hurts. It's not pleasant right now, but it's funny because I'm feeling better. It's just I feel like garbage.
I love that you're under the assumption that people don't normally get nauseous when they hear us.
Yeah.
This just might be a normal show. Just as you happen to be not well.
Laughing's going to make me cough. We're in trouble.
It's you and I started talking on the phone the other day about things we were going to do on the show. We wanted to talk about some of the recent solicits because they revealed new costumes for Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, and some of the details of some of the new books that are coming out, Post Convergence. And as we were having a conversation, we started talking about things like the most recent issue of Batman Eternal. And you had some questions about Batman Eternal and Convergence in general. But why don't we just jump to Batman Eternal? And obviously, if you haven't read Batman Eternal number 50, spoiler warning, that's going to be a part of this discussion. All right, let's go to it. Cluemaster. It was him. I did, aside from issue 49, where his conversation with Spoiler happened, I did not see it coming. Issue 49 was like the teaser to the fact that, oh, wait a minute, he might be the big bad. But before that, literally had no clue it was the Cluemaster. They really did a brilliant job of making him a focal character, but totally blowing my mind. I had no idea it was going to be him until, like I said, the previous issue 49, I started thinking, oh, wait a minute, maybe it's him. But I think that was by design.
Yeah, this is brilliant. I'm sitting, because all the names were thrown out. We never once throw out, hey, could it possibly be Cluemaster? Nah, we didn't even let it enter our head. This was just a wonderfully spun story where it's, again, I'm like, this is cool because they used him so prominent in the story, but it was always associated with Spoiler. So you're thinking, oh, okay, he's just another one of the guys who got the invite. He's just there, and it's more of a tie-in for a Spoiler story, not actually, hey, he's the big bad. He figured out all the secrets. He knows who Bruce Wayne is. He knows everything. This is, Cluemaster. He's a joke of a villain. What the heck? Surprise. He's not really. He knows what he's doing. And I was like, that was absolutely wonderful. And I completely did not see that coming. I was completely caught off guard by it. And I love it when a story, completely catches you off guard and you have no idea what's going on. And the whole time we're throwing out theories. And I was still kind of sticking to my, hey, this has got to be Hush. This has got to be Hush. Or maybe it's, Owlman. Or maybe it's, Thomas Wayne. Maybe it's, throwing out all these other names. Never once did I throw out Cluemaster. Never once did I think it was him.
Yeah, they've taken what they've done with Spoiler in the past and kicked it up to 11. I really like that. I love the development of Stephanie Brown. But I like when they take a villain that before has become a joke and make the villain viable again. I think that's really important to do that all the way, because what ends up happening with us as fans, you start to read certain villains when they come into a story and you just, they become filler issues because you just know Batman's going to wipe out that villain with no issue. Now Cluemaster has become a different level of operative. Far more interesting as somebody who can be used not just in this storyline, but again in the future, because we've kicked him up to another level. And it's really critical to do this. It's why you create not only new villains, but you reimagine classic villains so that they become something more, and they become far more interesting because of it. So I'm glad they're doing it in this story. I didn't see it coming, and I love that I was surprised by it. I love that you can look back, though, and say, oh, it was there all along. It was. But we didn't see it because of what we know about Cluemaster. I think that's really all along what the issue was. The planning sessions were all there on the table. The fact that he was laying out, giving clues to everybody was there all along. We just didn't see it coming. And that's neat. That's a really neat. It actually makes me want to go back and gradually start rereading the book, knowing this. I've got to start doing that more. There's so many runs of stories, and the problem is finding time that I want to go back and reread, but I'd love to go back and reread this knowing now. I reread multiple issues of this multiple times the way I normally read, but it's funny, I haven't had a chance to do that now knowing the reveal. It's got to be very different to read some of this.
Yeah. One of the things that I agree with you, I want to go back and reread this thing and just try to figure out the pieces and see, because it's, as you said, they put it all out there for us, and it just, again, it was our own personal opinions, our own prejudices against the Clue Master that were like, it can't be him. He's just part of the the puzzle. He's just one of the many flunkies that have been added to this mix, and bravo.
Now, there's 2 more issues of this. There's issue 51 and 52, and then it's going to take a break, and there's going to be a Batman Eternal Season 2. So this story is going to it looks like this story is going to completely wrap up, and there's going to be an Eternal Season 2, which I'm excited about. I really enjoyed this delivery, so I'm glad they're going to do another run, a story like this, because I just think it works really well with the Bat family and the Bat universe to have so many characters involved. That it makes for a sense of scope and scale that fits the number of people that are in Gotham. And I'm very curious to see what Gotham looks like post this, and then what it looks like post season 2, because this story now, we have an expectation that Eternal's the kind of story that's scope and scale, a changing story that will really change the status quo. So what will Eternal Season 2 do to the status quo of Batman's universe? I can't wait to see.
Yeah, and see, one of the things with me and Eternal that I'm loving the story. I think it's a fabulous story, but I am so confused on the timeline and the timetables of the Bat universe right now. It's something that, especially with when you add, you've got, when did Eternal happens, and then Endgame happens, or is it vice versa?
No. Endgame's after Eternal. I can clear
Endgame's after Eternal.
Right.
Then the return of Robin is after Endgame, because Damian's not in any of these stories yet. Damian wasn't in Endgame.
Right.
So Damian's not back yet. So we still have that whole story to happen.
Correct.
Because then, because you start thinking about some of the events that have specifically happened to, like characters like Alfred, that happen in this story, were they represented in Damian's return? And there's stuff like that where I'm trying to figure out exactly.
Ooh, you're hitting on a critical point right there.
Exactly.
Because of Alfred's hand.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And just in Penny 1 and Penny 2. Because Penny 2 wasn't in, or was she? I can't remember right now. If throughout the Return of Robin story, I don't remember seeing Penny 2.
Right.
But her story may get tied up by the end of Batman Eternal. We don't know yet. We know it. Well, no, actually, she's going to be around because she's around for Endgame, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so she's around for Endgame. So it's stuff like that where then, like, when you start looking at like the solicits for Batman 41, where they're talking about maybe a new Batman and that new Bat armor type thing going on. All these things, like, okay, that obviously has to take place after, the Return of Robin. So is there going to be is there a story between the end of Endgame, and Batman 41?
I don't know.
That's the kind of stuff I'm wondering what's playing out, and it's things like that is where it's now. I'm loving the stories they're telling, so I don't want it's just that little that little piece in my head. It doesn't ruin it for me that I have these questions, but I do have these questions in my head. I can't stop what I'm thinking, but so it's kind of weird. I'm wondering if it's going to play out, or if anybody has any understanding, or if anybody's heard any interviews or anything like that.
I'm pretty clear because they're both Snyder written.
Right.
Snyder's one of the Eternals. Snyder's one of the lead writers on it. There's a team of writers working on Eternal, but Snyder's one of the leads. Endgame takes place afterwards. The question mark area is clearly what's happening in Batman and Robin is a side story. Where does it fit in the chronological scheme of things? I'm not quite sure. I think we're going to be safe to say is, though, everything's going to tie up, stories are going to end right before Convergence, and then everything post-Convergence takes place after all of this.
Right.
So I think that's where timelines are going to start to line up. Catwoman clearly is after what's going on right now in Eternal because of the fact that her new status quo comes out of Eternal. So we know her status quo is where it's at. Batgirl takes place after Eternal right now, and it seems like it's concurrent with Endgame because of the fact that we're seeing her in new costume.
Yeah.
So we've got Batgirl lined up.
And they're talking detective, Yeah, because they say in the solicits, they're flat out saying following the events of Endgame.
Right.
There's a whole new, Gotham City PD going on now, and it's so that's exactly right there, directly out of it. So I think, in my head, I've kind of justified it that after Endgame is where the Bat stuff is, where the Return to Robin. It was kind of like that final piece that Bruce is like, I got to get my son back now.
I wonder if this explains the decision to make the Batman and Robin book Robin, Son of Batman. I wonder if that was part of it's to try and keep those books better lined up. Instead of having 3 books running,
right?
The Robin book is going to be the strictly Robin stories, so they don't have to directly line up. I don't know. It would make sense that would be one of the reasons why they would consider doing that right now, because they've got so many things on the table. Just to make that clear, I'm enjoying all the stories too. I'm with you. The only gray area for me is really how does Batman and Robin fit in timeline wise? And the main thing that's throwing me off is what you said about Alfred,
right?
Because it doesn't fit. And Penny too, there's an easy thing to explain, like she was on vacation or something.
Right. Or
you could
who knows, at the end of Endgame, when everything in Endgame is completely settled, there may be something.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, that could be explained. So I'm curious to see what ends up happening there.
Now, let's talk about the new Batman, or parentheses around new.
Well, wait,
we don't know if this is the new Batman.
Wait, hold on, Jim, hang on for a second before we go do that. Because before we get into the solicits, let's talk about Convergence, because you started bringing up some questions about Convergence when we were talking too. So I think let's talk Convergence and then talk about the solicits afterwards. So Convergence, you were talking about how you weren't sure how the DC Universe lines up to Convergence. I don't think it's going to. I think what ends up happening is they're trying to tie up a bunch of story arcs prior to Convergence, and then we're going to go to Convergence, and then the books are going to continue after Convergence, reflecting whatever happens in Convergence. Okay. I don't think we're going to have a bunch of books that I don't think we're going to get a 0 hour kind of thing where all of a sudden the last page is white or something like that, where all books tie into it. I think the storylines are going to tie up, and there's going to be pre-Convergence and post-Convergence DC Universe is how that's going to play out. I'm guessing we might get some cliffhangers as well, where a book leaves you with a cliffhanger. You've got 2 months off, and you come back post-Convergence with a continuation of those stories, depending on how those characters are affected by Convergence, if they are at all. Because some characters will likely not be affected by Convergence, I'm guessing. So we'll have to see how that all plays out. I think the one book that we're going to see probably, I'm guessing, would be the New 52 Future's End, would be the one title that's going into that. Earth 2 World's End probably will, or Earth 2, at least the series, will probably build to Convergence on some level. But I think that also plays into the Justice League Apocalypse War that's coming. So I'm going to be curious to see how all of that kind of ties together. But the one book that I'm pretty clear on is leading on some level into Convergence, just because of the Brainiac factor and the, bottling cities and all that kind of thing, is going to be the New 52 Future's End, because we're seeing that kind of thing play out in that book.
And here's the thing with that, because one of my main confusions I have with Convergence and with where it ties in is, if it is directly tied into Future's End, that's 5 years in the future. That's not present day DC taking place.
Neither is half of the stuff they're pulling in Convergence.
Right, so they're going to do a jump? That's where I'm confused.
You're way overthinking it. They're pulling from the multiverse from a bunch of different realities and a bunch of different times. So it's not, you're kind of over, because of the fact that one of the books is happening in a 5 year later continuity. They're also pulling from DC 1 million, it looks like, and they're pulling from the old Earth 2 storylines, the old Justice Society of America, and they're going to be pulling from things like Nightfall, and they're going to be pulling from different eras of DC. It's not going to be you're overthinking the continuity of it, because they're going to be pulling from different time points. I think that things that are happening in the New 52 Future's End will be partially reflected because of the fact that we've already seen this Brainiac bottling going on. But remember, the villain we haven't seen in a New 52 Future's End, that new villain. And I'm wondering if we're even going to see that villain until Convergence itself. I just think that the whole bottling aspect of it is part of how this villain's operating. I don't think the 5 year later of the New 52 necessarily means anything. That story can be completely negated like much of the previous storylines in DC. And this is a way to kind of pull in every story that's ever been told.
Okay.
I don't know if that makes sense. I think they're gonna really reintroduce the idea of the multiverse through Convergence. I'm hoping that's what they're doing, because I think it opens up more storytelling opportunities and opens up opportunities to tell stories with characters or concepts or timelines that we haven't seen for a while. I don't know that that's what's going to happen, but I don't think that any timeline is off limits. And that's why I don't think with this event, and I could be dead wrong, but I don't think with this event any of the books really need to line up with it, other than the fact that I think they're going to tie things up with a nice bow and a wide variety of books. Because, first of all, many books are ending. Some books, storylines and arcs clearly change drastically post-Convergence, which is where we're going now when we start talking about the solicits. So I don't think it's going to be that simple. I don't think we're going to get like... That's why I was using the 0 Hour example. I don't think we're going to get that final white page in every book that neatly lines into Convergence. I think we're just going to see storylines come to a conclusion, Convergence happen, and whatever Convergence means, we're going to see new status quo for a wide variety of people post. I don't think that Convergence necessarily has to be the cause of those new status quos, though. But it could very well be the cause of a wide variety of different books that we're going to be seeing post-Convergence. I don't know. I think a lot of this is going to be kind of... We're going to feel this out as we read Convergence and see what Convergence is actually going to do. I think Convergence is going to be a lot more about opening things up again. I think.
Yeah. I hope so. It's weird because I'm like, I don't know what they're going to do with this. And on one hand, I'm looking forward to the stories because, you know me, I like, tell me a good story, I'll be happy. But on the other hand, I'm like, when I start getting the groove going and I start understanding where the universe is, they flip-flop it on me and they're changing stuff on me. And it's I want to know the why now, but I do want it being told to me in the story. So I'm an enigma where I want the answer now, but I don't want the spoiler. So I can't have it both ways. So I just gotta learn to calm down and just, go through the groove and learn the truth and on my own and just let it happen.
See, I guess I'm less worried about it reading the solicits, because if you take a look at the solicits for June and you take a look at the new Batman costume, that's coming not out of Convergence. That's coming out of everything that's happened to Batman.
Yeah.
We see this suit of armor that's going on, which I'm thinking that's Bruce.
I was thinking that's Bruce as well, but he had to change the look. He had to change everything. Mm-hmm. So people don't know it's him.
Yeah.
I think he needs to make it seem like it's not actually, like this is a completely different Batman, for either, because again, if we see at the end of the last issue of Eternal, bad guys know the secret now. The best kept secret of the superhero universe wasn't so well kept. These guys are figuring it out. So he's got to do a flip flop. He's got to change things around now. So he's got to make it look like it's not him in the cowl. Now, to be honest, I think it'd be, top of my head, the person I thought would be really neat who would be in the costume would be Penny too. Mm-hmm. How cool would that be if for some reason she had to don the costume and it's her inside there with Alfred guiding her. For some reason Bruce isn't around. But that's just a thought that popped in my head when we were having our conversation about Penny too, what happens to her. I think that'd be kind of a neat twist that no one would see coming.
Or what if it's Alfred?
Or Alfred as well, yeah. Same kind of story where Alfred's in there. But I don't know. I could just, again, there's so many things they could do with this, but all honesty, it's probably going to be Bruce. But what if they do a flip-flop? What if they change things up on us? I think they definitely could do some kind of interesting stuff with this.
What if it's Jim Gordon?
Oh, my God, Jim Gordon in the costume? Mm-hmm. Again, another person that you put a heavy mech suit on him, he could do it because he is about Gotham. And you think about the Detective 41 solicits. Harvey's in charge of the task force. Right. There's no mention of Gordon, and they talk about his new partner, Renee Montoya. So there's no mention of Jim Gordon. Gordon in the costume. Batman asking him, "Hey, I need you to take up the mantle." Who else could handle it? Only problem is I like Gordon. I think he's awesome, but physically he is older, and he could, he's got a mech suit, but we've seen, people in mech suits take a beating from, just the torment and just everything you got to go with. I don't know. He could do it because he's Gordon and he'd be a good choice, but I think I would rather go with someone younger and put a younger person. That's why I threw out Penny too. Because she has the physical endurance and she could take more of a beating, than, Gordon or Alfred.
I still say it's Bruce.
Well, it probably is.
Yeah, I like speculating about it, but I still say it's Bruce. The costume's story driven, whether it's somebody else or not. Here's the thing. I'm very intrigued by it. If at first I was scared by it, I won't lie. Because I'm like, what are they doing? But then, again, I read on the cover Scott Snyder's writing, and I'm like, okay, I'm in. He'll make me a believer. It's a very anime-looking suit, and I like anime. It's not usually something I go for in my Batman. But see, for me, if you do these type of things and they're incredibly story-driven, and you deliver the kind of storytelling that this group has, I'm in. I'm excited, so I can't wait to see what's going to happen with wherever this story winds up going at the end of all this. So I'll be very curious to see what's leading to that. It does have me a little worried about Bruce, only because he's taken quite a beating in not only Eternal but in Endgame. And it does have me a little worried about the dude, which this is a good way to see. The nice part about the solicits it's not what they tell you, it's what they don't tell you. We don't know much about the current commissioner because of the solicits. We also don't know much about Jim Gordon because of the solicits. These are very well done solicits.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, and I love the fact that they don't mention Bruce at all. Mm-hmm. They don't mention Alfred at all. They don't mention any of these players that we're talking about. This is a great tease to get you thinking, okay, here we go. Things are new, maybe. Is this an all-new Batman makes his day? Who is it? What happens? It's like, okay, we got to see some stuff here, and it's funny because you talk about the anime look and the feel, and just, you look, first thought, when they threw out the Asbats all those years ago, where we get a more violent Batman, basically showing people this is why you don't want a more violent Batman. Well, once again, we're going a heavy mech. We got rocket launchers on the shoulder. Is this going to be a more violent Batman? I don't know. Is this going to be, what kind of Batman is this going to be? So there's so much stuff. I'm like, dang, what's going on here?
See, this to me has me more at ease when it comes to Convergence and what Convergence is actually going to do, because that clearly is spinning out of the current status quo in Batman. So we're not dropping that. Superman's solicits have me very interested, because am I the only one that's looking at those and going, are they ending Clark Kent? In this Truth storyline, are they ending Clark Kent?
I hope not.
Because what happens when the big secret, if you look at Superman number 41, the solicits there, what will happen when the big secret is revealed?
Right.
And you see in that cover, you see Superman in Clark mode with his suit being revealed underneath those. So I don't know.
Yeah, and the storyline is called Truth.
Right.
So, personally, I hope they don't end Clark Kent, because I like Clark Kent. That was always something that, made, Superman, it's, the big debate of always who's the real person? Is Clark Kent the real guy, or is Superman the real guy? Just like we have those same debates with Batman. Is Bruce Wayne the real guy, or is Batman the real guy? But, with Clark and Superman, I always liked the fact that he had that connection to the Kansas farm boy, and he had that growth, and he had that, his ma and pa that he learned lessons from, and he talked to them, and it made him, even though he had these superhuman godlike powers, it still made him a human. It still gave him that personal, touch and that personal, factor to him. So there's this, I don't want to lose Clark Kent, but it sounds like it is going to happen, because, you look at 41 solicits, epic storyline Truth for Superman. There's no more holding back. this is truth, not, there's, it makes you think they're going to reveal to the world, or at least make it out there to more people, because we're seeing more and more people. Again, like with Bruce Wayne's secret identity, we're seeing Clark Kent's identity going, out there. People are learning his secret identity. You wonder, if Superman loses Clark Kent, if he can no longer be Clark Kent, what's to keep him connected to humanity? Because that could be a very dangerous if Superman starts putting himself above everybody. If he doesn't have any downtime, if he doesn't have any time when he can just be a regular person and hang out and see people for people, you can run the risk of him going, him turning and him doing a little bit, looking down at us. How many, comics and stories that have been out there about these super powerful beings who've always been the champions of Earth and decided, you know what? I'm done saving these people. I'm going to conquer them. Clark Kent was always Superman's connection to the humanity to prevent that from happening. So if we lose that, will we lose him?
Can't we, though, if you take a look at Superman, can't he eventually... there's been storylines before where they've revealed things like identities and stuff like that, and they've undone it. They could always do that down the road if they did undo Clark Kent, if that's really what's happening here. And I'm not entirely sure that's 100% what's happening, but they're talking about a big secret, and I don't know what's bigger than that. So, okay, they reveal Clark Kent, if that is what's going on here. There's other ways, though, that he can connect with humanity. There's other ways he can, develop an identity, go incognito. He's just not going to be able to use the glasses thing anymore because that secret's out. I would be curious to see how they handle it. See, that's going to be part of the fun for me, whatever this is. And I'm making a big assumption that it is the end of Clark Kent, but it certainly looks like that may be what they're trying here. For storytelling reasons, I'm intrigued because having that out in the open is a huge status quo change. It's the stories that you tell around that. If you just do it as a shock stunt, it won't work. Here's the thing, though. If it's a shock stunt, they're keeping it very vague, even though they're teasing it out there. They're keeping it kind of vague that they're doing that right now, and I'm glad they are. As the issue gets closer to release and when they actually go to do that, that's when, they should really do some mega solicits. Because the idea behind doing this would be what? To draw people in from the outside who don't read Superman, right?
Right.
I think the same thing with Batman. And then clearly what they're doing with Wonder Woman, because Wonder Woman's getting a new costume out of this too, again, which is building off of the storyline we're currently seeing with Donna Troy. Wonder Woman's costume I adore. Do you like that new one?
Oh yeah, I'm digging it. Again, I like changing things up and just little tweaks in here and there with with Wonder Woman. I kind of like just again, it's not the now I like the traditional what you have in your head Wonder Woman costume, yeah. But I always like, giving her, changing up the look, giving her a more fuller, body look, and not just, a bikini, or not just a bathing suit. Give her some more cloth and clothing on her, and it feels like, more of a superhero costume, less of a hey, let's give some people some eye candy, and it's I don't know, but again, as I'm talking, I'm like. I do like the tradition. I do like when they, you hold key to what was created in the past, but sometimes you got to evolve. Sometimes you got to change the costume. When they first did that costume change with the long blue pants and all that, and people were complaining, I was one of the guys who said, hey, that's an awesome costume. So this change going along with it, again, I'm cool with it. Let's modify this. It's still Wonder Woman. You look at her and you can still see, yes, that's still Wonder Woman. Well, there's different tweaks to it, but you know what? It's still the same style.
Here's the reality of that, though, and it kind of goes off of what you're saying. None of these things are permanent. These are things to tell interesting stories. Like, each of these changes that we're seeing right here are lining up to be very story-driven. The timing's perfect because you really, if you want to make some noise post-convergence, you want to give people who don't normally read DC, or maybe are lapsed readers, a reason to come back and check it out. Because if there's one thing that you want to do with any of these things is draw in new readers. You don't want to shuffle around your current ones, which I guess from some articles that I've been reading, one of the things that have been successful, sales numbers, New 52 helped sales numbers, but it seemed to be still pulling in a lot of the core target DC audience versus some outside readers. Hopefully, some of the things like this will get people going, I want to see that. I kind of want to check that out. It sounds neat. And if it's story driven and each of those issues has something for your longtime readers, but at the same time has something accessible for your newer readers, you can build a new readership from this. They've got great creative teams on all of these. I mean, these are books that I'm currently enjoying with creative teams that I'm currently digging. So I have a lot of confidence in the people. We're not getting like all of a sudden just a wacky bunch of people who we haven't seen before on these titles that are randomly doing this without a connection to their previous stories. These are people we're currently reading now, and we've been talking about on the show how much we're enjoying the Bat universe right now, how the Superman universe has stepped up, how Wonder Woman's been a great book, even though they followed this like Death Star run from Brian Azzarello. So these are books that are delivering right now. These changes are ways to bring in outside readers to have them go, I maybe should check those books out. And they're great books, so I want to see that happen. I'm glad they're the same teams. I would probably be more freaked out right now if the unknown was in place. Not only are we getting these new looks, but we're getting new creative who maybe doesn't understand what's come before. Where's my connection point as the current reader? This doesn't have that. Those solicits are showing that we're getting the same creative teams that are currently on these books. I'm happy about that because this is something that's story driven, if I'm making any sense at all.
Oh yeah. Because you think about like with especially the characters you mentioned with with Snyder, continuing on, Meredith Finch continue on. We're getting the same people working over. The only real major difference would be on the Superman title.
Yeah.
We got a new writer on that. But again, and that's one of the things that I'm like, okay, what is this big secret? Where is this going to go? And okay, let's see what happens.
But if you take a look at the other books that are attached to this, you've got Greg Pak still on 2 of the books, and then Pete Tomasi on Superman, Wonder Woman. So the only curveball on that is going to be the new writer who's on Superman with number 41. And you're right. I'm actually glad you're pointing that out because that is a big change. So what's that going to be like? I'm comforted by the fact that we've got Greg Pak on 2 of these books, and we've got Pete Tomasi involved. I'm like, all right, this is going to be good. Just because of the creative involved. I'm walking in very optimistically with Superman 41 because of the Truth storyline. And actually, the Truth storyline begins in Action Comics.
Right.
And continues into the other books from there.
Yeah, and it's in every Superman title. Mm-hmm. So Batman and Superman, Wonder Woman and Superman, every one of them have some connection to the Truth story. So it's, they're really doing heavy on the Truth. So it's, kind of curious to see, again, what's secret? What are they going to do? Because the big secret is his identity, but is that the one they're going with? I don't know. And is it going to be general public or is it just going to be people? How is this going to play out? And I don't know. And like you talk about just like new costume is he shifting back more to t-shirt look, and are we getting a change in Superman look? And I don't know, because every one of these covers have him back in the t-shirt and shirt in pants. But with more of a
costume, with more of a Kingdom Come style S.
Right. Yeah, with the red on the black. So again, where is that coming from? Is that all part of this Truth? Is this going to be part of, again, maybe a way for them to protect the secret identity? Again, trying to change who is Superman. Maybe they're going to keep Clark Kent around, but change Superman and say this is a different person. I don't know.
When you see stuff like that now, because there was a time when I used to get freaked out by this kind of thing when I'd see it. When you see stuff like that now, does it freak you out? What I end up looking for first is who the creative is on it. And when I start to see creative that I'm familiar with or that have been currently working on the book, and I feel like this is, a continuing of a current continuity, I start to get comforted. But what about you? Do you freak out when you see this kind of stuff? And there's no right or wrong answer to that. I mean, there's, if you look on the internet, there's people who are happy, sad, terrified, and everywhere in between, depending on where you're at with these kind of changes. So where do you fall when you see this now? How does that work for you? Because I'm sure it's probably evolved.
I freak out a little bit. I do freak out a little bit, but it's not it's never a place of, I try not to take it to a place of hate, like, oh, this is terrible, until I've actually have the issues in my hand. So I try not to pass judgment, but I am worried, and I'm concerned and I'm curious. And stuff like where you mentioned, where if I see creators that I know and I trust, it calms things down. Like with, we got Tomasi, we've already thrown out a bunch of names working on Superman. People that I know, people that I trust. We do have an unknown factor. I don't know who, Gene Yang is. So I don't know he's the new writer for Superman, but all the other super titles have people I know and trust. So I'm like, okay, let's see what happens. Let's see where this goes. But in the back of my head, I'm like going, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? And it's when part of it adds to my enjoyment of it, that, oh my God, what are they going to do? Kind of anticipation. It's that great tease for me. But part of it, there is okay, what's going to happen here? Kind of concerned, and it's I don't know. It's a emotional roller coaster that I go through right before I get calm and I get in the groove, because we'll see what the actual story plays out. So I don't know. It's part of, for me, the process that I've got to have these different emotions, because if comics didn't inspire any type of emotional response from me, I wouldn't collect them anymore. I wouldn't read them anymore. I wouldn't talk about them anymore. If it's, there's some stuff in my life that I just do, okay, it's nothing too exciting for me, I don't talk about it that much. It just, okay, I'll watch this now. I'll do this now. But it's not something I'm passionate about. The comic books have me passionate enough that I'm spending all this. We spend how many hours a week talking about these things, and and I think part of that passion comes from the fear, comes from the unknown, comes from this point of what's going to happen now, status. So it's, on one hand, I would like to, just to keep going with the roll with it, and keep, don't do anything major changes for me, guys. I like, I'm one of those guys, I like no changes. But on the other hand, when you start adding that change, that kind of, gets the juices going, that gets things kind of flowing nicely. So I don't know. I think we got to just sit back and watch and read and wait to see what happens. And I don't know. It's gonna be a ride. It's going to be an interesting ride.
Sometimes change does the right thing. It builds anticipation. I just hope there's a marketing campaign around this that targets people outside of the current DC fans, because I want to see some of the unique titles that they're doing succeed. And I say that whether they're my cup of tea or not. I'm excited for all of these right now, just because it's a diverse landscape. And I think that was one of the things the New 52 did very well. I just got caught up this week on Swamp Thing, for example, which for me was very much like what I said about Animal Man many times on the show. One of the better surprises coming out of the New 52. And I would say that with both writing teams that predominantly worked on this title. I think they did a really good job of making a book that made me understand. I've never read Swamp Thing in a run from beginning to end. I've read Swamp Thing before. I've really enjoyed Swamp Thing, but it's always been in arcs after the fact. I've never had the opportunity to have the budget where I could be reading Swamp Thing when it was coming out. This book I really enjoyed. So I'm looking at a lot of these titles, and there's things on there that I'm not really sure about. Omega Men, I'll use as a great example. I've read minis with Omega Men. I've read guest spots with Omega Men. I've never read a run of Omega Men as it's come out, with the exception of some of the minis since you and I have been doing the show. I'm very familiar with the characters, but not in the sense of somebody who's like read all of their appearances and really behind them. You got the creative on there. Tom King writing, I'm interested. He's hitting, the creative, half the creative team on Grayson is hitting full-blown, wonderful stories there. So I'm excited for what's going to happen with that. These are the kind of things I want to see spin out of this. I need stuff to take the place of Animal Man and Swamp Thing coming out of this. Unique titles that are going to come out of this as well. But I want other people who maybe haven't been reading DC for a while to come in or maybe haven't read DC at all, because of some of the noise that's being generated here, get on board. So if there's one thing that Convergence would be successful with, is if they market things right and they bring people into some of these titles and we get some readers on some of the lesser-known books, as well as the main titles, it's a victory. So I'm hoping that happens out of this. Have you read the Endgame? The two, there was Detective Comics Endgame and Batgirl Endgame. Have you read either of those?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I'm guessing Detective Comics Endgame is leading into We Are Robin. Is that how you were reading that?
That's how I read it as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which has me excited for that book because I really liked that story. I don't know if I'm right on it, but the fact that you were kind of like, yeah, I'm kind of reading it that way too. That looks to me like what was going on in We Are Robin. I hope, because I want to see that.
Yeah, just the people rising up and just it's not anybody, endorsed by the Bat, but it's just these people who are saying, hey, we got to step up. We got to do what we got to do. And I think that, for me, is an awesome just concept because you think about Gotham City as just, we always say Gotham City is a living, breathing entity, and it's people. They're gonna, if you grow up in Gotham, if you survive childhood in Gotham, you've got a leg up on, say, somebody in Metropolis. You've had a little bit harder life. You've had to deal with probably at least one or two attempts on your life, just because that's just Gotham's that tough. Gotham is that crazy. Gotham is that nasty. So you see, I could see people who've been, who've had that, that rough stuff time and time and time again, finally say, you know what? It's time we take a stand. That's it. We are Robin. I can just see that, that kind of mindset happening where like, okay, we're going to start, fighting where we can, how we can. And I kind of like that concept, and I like it for Gotham. I wouldn't want to see it in any of the other cities. It fits in Gotham.
Damian, it's interesting. The son of a bat and a demon, Damian Al Ghul, has set out to forge his own destiny. I'm very curious to see how this is going to play out in Robin, Son of Batman. What is the status quo that he's globetrotting?
Yeah, and atone for a shameful year of blood.
Yeah.
What year of blood are we talking about here, Damian?
Yeah. I'm curious to see where that book goes. Batgirl. It's the same creative team that's been on Batgirl. Are you obviously you read the Endgame issue and all that?
Yeah, I'm caught up.
Where are you at with that title now? Because I'm in a different place with it now than I was when it started. I'm starting to get into the book. I'm starting to see it for what it is and not trying to make it Gail Simone's book, if that makes sense. So I'm starting to enjoy it as its own title. I do think that it really feels like I almost wish they'd started it with number 1, because to have it continue from the previous title, I think for me, is really hurt it in the beginning. As far as the attachment to it, if they'd kicked off a brand new series, I probably would feel differently. I'm into the book now, though. I'm enjoying it. You were, out of the two of us, I think you were the more tentative one out of the two of us, but it was pretty close when we were chatting about it. Where are you at on this book now?
Yeah, I definitely was the more tentative of the two of us. And, I took just some good advice that was given to me, and I just let it go. I would be singing right now, but I can't sing because of my voice, and it's really angering me that I can't just start belting out that song, by the way. But I just let go of what was Batgirl to me before, and I've embraced who this new Batgirl is and who this story is. And same thing with Black Canary, where they kind of tweaked who Black Canary was, and I'm liking this Dinah Lance. I liked at the end of the Batgirl of Burnside story. I thought that was a really good Batgirl story. It wasn't Gail Simone's Batgirl, and I had to completely let that go. This is a different person, and like you, I wish. This is one of the ones where I wish they, again, would have gone with a number 1, or actually, if they had waited until after Convergence.
Yeah.
And that's when they did the change. I think for me, that would have probably made it a little bit better, because I can say, oh, okay, yeah, they're pulling a different elf. They're pulling in another Batgirl, and oh, okay, and I think that for me would have probably been a better, smoother transition, just mentally for me. But again, the Batgirl does some really cool stuff. The storyline was some great. It was a great story, and you got to give credit where credit's due. And I liked how they set up Black Canary number 1 that's going coming out of this. You see the exact you see exactly where this takes place right after it's the continuation of the story, and I'm in a good spot with Batgirl and Black Canary right now, and I wasn't in the past. I wasn't before this, but it's part of the thing where you got to give the story a chance. You got to give it a read through. I never make a judgment based on one single issue. Usually,
right.
I think in my lifetime, maybe once I've only done it. But you give it a couple issues and just let it see what happens with it. And this is who Barbara Gordon is now, and she's a pretty cool Batgirl. So I'm not gonna knock who she is or what she's about.
That Burnside issue, I'm glad you referenced that, because that was, I think, a major turning point for me, because there were so many apparent references to Oracle in that, and who she is as Oracle. Did you read the Secret Origins issue too that told like her backstory?
No, I haven't yet. I'm behind on Secret Origins. I got to get through those.
Jump ahead to Secret Origin number 10, because it's kind of a side story to what's with the whole Burnside thing.
Oh,
and
okay.
It's the first kickoff storyline in there, and it's really, really good. It shows that this team understands Batgirl. I do think that the team was done a disservice by not, Gail Simone's run, I think, was so definitive of a ideology of Batgirl that you would have been better served ending that run, like when the change came, and starting for this team a brand new run with issue number 1, because what they did is so different. But once you start getting through it, they really do understand the character, and it's a unique take on the character, and I'm liking it. I'm not where I was with it when Gail was on it yet, because I'm just a huge fan of her work. So to see such a different voice with the character, I think has been jarring for me. And I think that's unusual for me with Batgirl, with the whole Bat family, because I've grown up with Batgirl since I was a little kid. So, to see this now and kind of, have this kind of growing into Batgirl, I think the series would have been better served with a relaunch at issue number 1, because I think I would have been in a different mental state if they had done that. I do. And I loved your idea of, it would have been nice if they could have waited till after Convergence. But I will say that the storylines are so good right now that they are pulling me in, and they're making me a believer, where I've still got some issues with her de-aging. I mean, that's the thing that's still sticking in my head, I think, is the fact that this girl is clearly younger.
Yeah.
I mean, at least, and I think it is because of the status quo. She's happier, more fun-loving. I don't mind that part. I just think the connection, it's a continuity thing for me. The connection to the previous series, I think they've done a great job of trying to do their new thing while keeping us connected to what happened before. And I think that they're finding a tone balance now. The Burnside storyline was great. I really enjoyed that. The ties to Oracle is really what's doing it for that. And I'm excited I'm excited for the Black Canary series now, because I think that Burnside story started to fix some of the problems I was having with Black Canary in that book too. I think they got to the end of this arc, that they were doing, and the relationship between Barbara and Dinah. And I'm like, okay, now I'm starting to be a believer again in these two, because I was having trouble with how they were handling both of them for a little bit there.
Yeah, because you need to have just those two they're two characters that you got to have on the same page. Mm-hmm. And it's, when they're having the divide between them and just everything that was going on, I was like, but this is Barbara and Dinah, they gotta be on the same page together. This has got to be the groove, and even, Canary was de-aged a little bit. She looked younger, and like, you can't, there was those type of things that were really throwing me. But again, as the story played out, as we got to see, Black Canary, and then going forward, the end of, issue 3940 Batgirl, is leading directly right into Black Canary number 1. And I'm glad to see that. I like seeing they're showing the continuity with, and Brendan Fletcher, who's also Batgirl, is doing Canary. So it's a continuation on that. So it'll still have the same vibe and that same feel of this character that I'm starting to get adjusted to. I'm sort of like, okay, yeah, this is Black Canary, because there's some cool Canary moments, not just the big massive Canary cries. There's just that presence that she has to have, that level of confidence, because to me, Black Canary always had that strength. And I still just love the scene when she walked into the Justice League secret room, where there was only 3 chairs, so she brought her own chair, and she just sits down just staring at the Trinity saying, hey, you didn't have a chair for me, so I brought my own. Where she can just has the confidence and the chutzpah in herself that she can say, hey, I'm just as good as you guys. I'm one of you. I am in charge of the Justice League. I need to have that confidence from Black Canary.
Yeah, and I think obviously we're going to need time for that with this because this is again Barbara and Black Canary that are kind of starting off at a very early stage again in what they're doing. Barbara's obviously got the history, and so does Black Canary. The Burnside story arc kind of now they're showing that these two actually have some experience behind them, and I thought that storyline really kind of clicked with me a lot more. And is easing me into their direction. Harley Quinn stuff has been great. So Harley Quinn and Power Girl, which is it looks like it's a side story from Harley Quinn 12.
Yeah.
So I'm into that. Grayson's been phenomenal. Same thing with Catwoman. So I'm not worried about those. Gotham Academy continuing in Gotham by Midnight. Red Hood and Arsenal, still written by Scott Lobdell. Obviously, we're losing Starfire because of her new book. Any thoughts on that becoming a buddy cop book with the two of them?
I'm cool with it. I'm gonna miss Starfire in it because I did like the three of them playing off, but we still got the two of them working together, the two of them doing their thing. So it's again, I'm loving the way Red Hood's being written. I'm loving Jason Todd and Arsenal. I think this is a good team up. I think this is a good group of hero-ish type people working together. So we continue the good stuff. And it's interesting. I'm glad that they did do a number 1 on this one. Just in case there was anybody who had any issues with the Red Hood and the Outsider story and anything, this gives them a chance to jump back onto some cool characters. And Lobdell's a good writer. I like his style, so I'm cool with this.
Now, Batman Beyond looks like it's going to take place in the actual DC Universe future. Well, this...
One of them.
Yes. But this says the definitive future of the DC Universe. So it's I'm curious about that one. I've been enjoying the New 52 Futures End has really benefited from the presence of that character. So I'm anxious to read. I'm hoping it's the same one from Futures End.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's going to be, Terry, and I'm assuming, but again, you think about what happens in, Futures End. Is it going to be rewritten? Is everything as is? Will Terry? What happens to the future? Because that's the whole question I have with all this craziness going on with Futures End and this and that, and what is the future going to look like? And I don't know. And so there's a concept, Batman Beyond. I dig the concept with the older Bruce Wayne working with, the younger, the new guy on the block. And, but I do like a more established, Terry McGinnis where he's actually got the groove going. And I like seeing him as, a comfortable shoes as the Bat. So I don't know where this is going to take place. I don't know how this is going to lay out, but it's, again, I'm obviously going to give it a couple read-throughs, see what we got going on. Dan Jurgens is a great writer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't wait to see what happens with this. So, yeah, you're right. Dan Jurgens being on it is great. And that actually has me for Batmite as well, the fact that Dan Jurgens is going to be on it. I have no idea about that. I'm kind of, Batmite and Bizarro, I'm in the same place. They look like it's DC having fun. And I'm all for that because these are both miniseries. They're Bizarro's a 6-issue miniseries and Batmite's a 6-issue miniseries. So I'm all for having fun. I'm excited to see what ends up happening. Batmite looks like it's going to be an all-ages book. It's rated E. So
and so is Bizarro.
Yeah. So both of those books, I don't know. I'm hoping they're fun. I've been loving the fun aspect of what's been going on with Harley Quinn. So this looks like something along that vein more so than, what we've normally gotten from these characters. So I'm open-minded to those. It's a good idea to do those in miniseries. And
yeah. If these were monthlies, I don't know if I would. I'll be honest with you. I don't know if I'd pick them up. Yeah, if these were monthlies, and
if they're really good though, would you want a sequel?
Yeah, actually, if they're real good, I'd probably want a sequel. But I'll be honest with you, I'm thinking about these. Mm-hmm. I may go these purely digital. And I may not actually get the physical comics. And I may get these in digital format.
We're going to talk about both of those. We're going to have to talk about both of those on the show, the first issues of them.
Oh, yeah. And that's why I think
I'm actually looking forward to Convergence Month for us because that's going to be, I mean, obviously our episode, the 2 months of Convergence, I should say, our episodes are going to be obviously heavily revolving around that event. And then after that, it's going to be really a whole month of talking about New Status Quo. The Doomed storyline, the Doomed book, I should say, that's coming out, which obviously is going to bring Doomsday in. Justice League is going to be kicking off with the Dark Side War, which I think the events of Earth 2, that's why I say Earth 2 is probably leading into that as well. Aquaman, we're getting a new writer. I don't know. I must have missed the boat on this one. It's Cullen Bunn, who we've seen a lot of his work on like Sinestro lately and the Green Lantern books. So that has me excited because Jeff Parker's been doing a bang-up job on Aquaman. If you're going to follow up Jeff Parker with somebody, you got to do it with somebody that I really like. And Cullen Bunn's DC work right now has been really good. So the writer of Sinestro coming over to Aquaman and still writing Sinestro has me excited. How does that work for you?
Once again, it's a name I know, so I'm okay.
Mm-hmm.
Once I saw the change, I was like, wait, okay, who is that again? And I've realized, okay, that's Sinestro. Oh, okay. Yeah, I like his style. So, okay, let's see where this goes. Especially, you see the solicits, Aquaman's on the run from Atlantis, and stuff. So, like, okay, how is this going from, and then you think about it with the last couple issues with the Queen returning, and maybe that could cause things. So this may be a flow through from the last issues on. So again, the story continues. Oh, okay, let's see what happens.
Green Arrow. Speaking of, right, I do not know the writer Ben Percy. It's a novelist. I'm very excited, just because you know what? Probably the most tentative. Because here's the thing, we've had 2 writers in a row, or 2 groups of writers in a row on Green Arrow that have been really good, that have really taken the character to new heights. And that's a book where I'm kind of like, I want Ben Percy to be great. So I'm rooting for Ben Percy. I'm loving Green Arrow right now, which is why I'm rooting for Ben Percy, because I want Ben Percy to make me go, I don't know who Ben Percy is. I want to know who Ben Percy is after reading the first issue, if that makes sense. I want this to be that good because Green Arrow is a book that I'm really digging. I jump to Green Arrow right now when it comes out. I've been doing that since Jeff Lemire was writing it, and that continued with the new creative team from the show. So I'm hoping that Ben Percy does that same thing for me. I would love Ben Percy to blow away my expectations. Because I want Green Arrow to continue to be that good. It needs to be that book. I want Green Arrow to be the Flash. Because I can honestly, everything I just said, I can say about the Flash. The Flash is awesome. So I want Green Arrow to be the Flash. I want that to be another book where I'm just kind of like blown away. So fingers crossed for issue 41 and Ben Percy.
I'm worried about Green Arrow, and not because of change. Right? Green Arrow is a title. I think that they keep changing creative teams, and we're getting some good stories. So I'm like, I can't completely knock it. So who knows what this guy's going to do? But again, another change. This is one of the titles that I think going into the solicits, going into this, we needed continuation. And I'm worried that people are going to see new writer, new creator, and they may not pick up Green Arrow. And I'm worried about that because Green Arrow is a great character. We've seen some cool stuff. So like you, I hope he just knocks it out the park and hits, and you walk away with, after reading issue 1, going, oh my God, this guy is awesome. So I'm rooting for Ben. I hope Ben can pull this off because I like Green Arrow. I like the character. I like, it starts building up of steam, starts getting that groove going, and you're like, yeah, this is some cool stuff. And now we got to change. I'm like, what the heck's going on here? It's, guys, don't do this to me.
It's benjaminpercy.com is his website, and he's a novelist. I mean, I gotta say, I'm intrigued by the guy, just because of the fact that he's going to be taking over. I want him to be great. I really want him to be great. So, my fingers are crossed. He did the Terminal storyline of Detective Comics.
Oh, okay.
Which I liked.
Yeah, that was a good story.
That two issue was it was like a fill-in in between, and maybe that was to give us a taste of his writing. But that was a really good fill-in for Detective Comics. So that has some hope for me. I've been really digging Green Arrow so far. I'm with you. I'm hoping Ben Percy hits a home run and we get a run from Ben Percy. Yeah. I would like to see a nice long run on Green Arrow from Ben Percy. Like, I hope he gets it. He gets the character, and it's a nice long run because I want to feel like the book has a set identity. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think the biggest problem with Green Arrow so far has been not necessarily any of the creative teams as much as the fact that they haven't been able to hit a stride because their runs they've been contained. So it's just when you start getting into them, the rug gets yanked out a little bit. My favorite run by far was the Jeff Lemire run. I thought Jeff Lemire really nailed it. I was enjoying it now that the new creative team's taken over from the show. I've still been digging Green Arrow. It's still been a go-to book for me. Your point of we're switching the creative team again, I'm fine with that if the point of this will be Post Convergence. We're going to stabilize Green Arrow and really hit the ground running and tell big stories. I want Green Arrow to be the Flash. I really do. And I want Ben Percy to succeed. So I'm hoping Ben Percy nails this. So I'm rooting for him. I'm actually really, because if he succeeds, it's good for me. Oh, yeah. So that's good stuff.
Yeah, I want him to do good because I like the character. I want a nice, long, healthy run, and I think that's you hit it on that. You hit the nail on the hand with the hammer there. I want that nice, long continuation. That one storyline builds on another story arc, builds on another, and you just get this epic adventure within title, and I want that from Green Arrow because I think he's a character that you can do that with. Because Ollie and the cast, the Arrow crew are some great people to have around him. And, there's definite solid characterizations. And, they're saying they're sending him back to Seattle, so he's going to be in Seattle. And now it's a home. That's been a long time home for him. So it's, again, I think we got a shot at doing some interesting stuff there.
I do too. The Green Lantern series is going to be still Robert Venditti, and Cullen Bunn is going to be doing the Lost Army. Lost Army is going to have Jon Stewart, 2/6, Kilowog, and Arisia, and a surprise guest star. So I'll be curious who the surprise guest star is. But I'm glad to see Jon Stewart because Jon Stewart has been somebody who I think has evolved into being an incredibly interesting Green Lantern to follow. I'm glad that he's going to be featured in this book because I want more Jon Stewart. So that was thrilling. Hal Jordan's out being an outlaw with, again, story-driven with everything that Venditti and crew has been doing with him. I'm glad to see that that's the storyline that's continuing in the Green Lantern books. So I'm excited for more. Sinestro's just been fantastic, so yay, more Sinestro.
Yeah. And the solicit for the Lost Army, they say a surprise guest star. We promise you'll never predict. Mm-hmm. My prediction is Kilowog.
Kilowog's already listed.
Oh, yeah, he is. Hey, I got it right.
No, I love that. Wait a minute. Jon Stewart, 2/6, Kilowog, and Arisia, and the surprise guest star, Kilowog. Well, you know what? I'm going to be honest with you. With the fact that they listed Kilowog as the third choice on there, it would be really surprising if he wound up being the guest star, too.
See? There you go. No, you can tell I'm still kind of loopy from the sickness, because I meant to say...
I think it's Arisia.
I meant to say Arkillo.
Oh,
from the Sinestro Corps. That's what I did mean to say, but I am still a little bit out there from this illness. So I'm going to blame this sickness on that one. Yeah. But
I have no prediction on the surprise guest star. I'm excited for how the book goes. I would love it if it's St. Walker or somebody like that. I'm guessing it's probably going to be a Green Lantern, though, whoever it is. So, because it's the Green Lantern, the Lost Army, so I'm assuming it's going to be a Green Lantern. That's my guess, but I would be fine if it's Arkillo.
Oh, what if it's oh god, what's his name? The one that Hal got his ring from, the dead one.
Abin Sur?
Yeah.
That would certainly be something I wouldn't predict.
Yeah. There's my prediction.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Abin Sur.
What if it's Ganthet?
Oh, that'd be awesome. That'd be another nice one.
Because he survived. So it'd be interesting to see if it was that. I don't know. I guess I am making predictions now, but I'm not really sold on any of them. Justice League 3001 looks like it's going to be a continuation of the current Justice League series we've been reading. And then Earth 2 Society #1. They're going to be going to a new planet.
And you think about it. One, they have that DNA final solution. Mm-hmm. You know, remember that Bruce came up with, you know, the Earth 2 Bruce came up with, that had the DNA code that that they're protecting and defending and all that. So I'm thinking they're going to do a Genesis project, you know, a la Star Trek, where they take and boom, create a brand new Earth, and it's going to be, Earth 2 is going to be a whole new Earth. Apocalypse is going to devour what was Earth 2. They're going to recreate it, and now they're going to have to rebuild the society that is on Earth 2. So I think that's where this is coming from. And it's interesting, you know, that cover with that Batman that's on the cover, because I'm putting money on that's Dick Grayson.
I honestly was thinking the same thing. We're completely on the same page with that one. I don't care who it is. I'm glad that we're going to get another Batman, because I've enjoyed that. But I mean, that would be a great choice with the use of him. I am growing on Jay Garrick's costume, because I've seen it for a while now since they've done the solicits. I really liked the Jay Garrick costume that they had. So the helmet, I guess I'm getting used to. But I was so pleased to see Hawkgirl in the background.
Yeah.
Adore Hawkgirl. I'm glad they're keeping Power Girl with the Supergirl kind of symbol. You know, as a way of honoring this building off of everything I've been enjoying. That was a book, Earth 2, with it going weekly, plus the main issue. I thought that was going to detract from my Earth 2 experience. It's been just the opposite. I've been just as engaged, if not more. And that was one of my favorite books out of the New 52 when they eventually launched that title. Really was enjoying what they were doing with that, so I'm glad to see that's continuing. And Daniel Wilson staying on and doing work with Earth 2 still is welcome to me, because I've been enjoying the story so far, so I'm excited for that. Martian Manhunter, Eddie Barrow's artwork has me on that one. Rob Williams, I want that to succeed. I'm interested in it. I'm not really sure about it yet. Teen Titans, this is one where I'm going to be very curious about, because we're getting a new team, it looks like. We're going to have a Kid Flash again. We're going to have Clarion in there. It looks like Superboy.
Yeah.
If I'm reading that right. Power Girl, the new Power Girl. Garth is staying. Is that Changeling?
I guess so.
Where's Red Robin?
Yeah. I don't see a Red Robin. I don't see, Wonder Girl. I don't see Raven, but again, if they're shifting things around, I don't know what's going on here. Again, it's, it's Will Pfeiffer, so I'm okay. We got
the book's been great so far. Have you been digging Titans since he's taken over?
Yes. Yeah. I'm definitely a fan of his. Mm-hmm. So again, this is one of those things where it looks like they're changing stuff up on me, and I'm like, hold on, what's happening here? But when you see names that you trust, you're like, okay, let's just see how this plays out.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. We're completely in the same place on that one. It's we're keeping the same art. I love Kenneth Roquefort's art on that. I've really enjoyed Kenneth Roquefort's DC work. He did that great run in the Superman books, and I really enjoyed what he did, to the point where I picked the statue that was reminiscent of his kind of take on Superman. I'm really liking what they're doing as a team with Teen Titans, so I'm tentative because of the cover, just because I'm like, oh, this is what we're going. But that doesn't mean that's everybody who's on the team. And to be honest, I'm very curious to see where this goes. I'm because I'm enjoying it so much. I'm glad to see Deathstroke's continuing with Tony Daniel. Starfire with Amanda Conner and Jimmy Palmiotti, mainly because of how cool Harley Quinn's been. I'm okay with that. I'm a little concerned only because of the fact that we've had like kind of a gradual maturing of Starfire. So I'm going to be curious to see how they build off of that with what they do. But you've got Amanda Conner and Jimmy Palmiotti attached on a book. They automatically get kind of a pass just because I haven't read anything by them I haven't liked.
Yeah, you have those two names on it. I'm going to enjoy it. Yeah. I try, again, it's one of those things where they're, Amanda Conner, Jimmy Palmiotti, Justin Gray, Jimmy Palmiotti. You have any of those three names on a book in any combination, I'll be fine. I'll be good with it. Especially you got Connor and Palmiotti. Those two, I really enjoy what they do. I enjoy their style. So it's, it's funny. There's absolutely zero concern. I've loved what Starfire has become and how she's grown, and the characterization throughout this point in time. With this book, they could 100% turn it completely on its ear and dramatically change everything, and I would be okay because they're in charge of it. It's just because there's such confidence in this creative team. If any other creative team was doing this, I would have concern or cares. So I'd be like, wait, what? I see the names. I'm like, oh, okay, it'll be cool.
Lobo and New Suicide Squad are basically a continuation of those series, which I've been into so far. I'm not through the roof yet on either of them, but they're kind of my middle of the ground books. Where like they're good books. I'm digging them. They're not on the chopping block, but they're not. They're one of those like if I had to trim my budget, I'd probably be with those two. I like reading them because they're interesting characters in both, but they're kind of my middle ground, kind of when I'm done reading like some of my favorites, I like jump on those. I tend to stockpile both books.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I'm reading them. Like every time I've stockpiled them and I've sat down and read like a few issues in a row, it's usually like 3 issues in a row that I'm reading of both books. I'm in, I'm enjoying them. I'm glad I'm reading them. So there's never been an issue where I've been kind of like, wow, I don't want to read this. I think for me, where they're suffering is I'm reading a ton of titles, and I've got so many that are my favorites right now that I've never been a big Lobo fan. I've liked Lobo. This new Lobo, I do like. I think I'm starting to like this new Lobo better than the traditional Lobo, just because I think there's something interesting about him. So, the series is growing on me, and it's Cullen Bunn, so I would never drop it because it's Cullen Bunn. I'm digging what he's doing. I'm just not quite there with Lobo yet. The new Suicide Squad, I dig, but it's funny. The one thing that's helping New Suicide Squad right now is that Secret Six is back. Because for a while, I was reading Suicide Squad and saying to myself, I wish this was Secret Six. Now that Secret Six is back, I'm looking at Suicide Squad with a new lens. Like, I'm excited for the film. I'm glad that there's going to be a Suicide Squad movie. So I think my interest is growing in Suicide Squad because of the movie. I'm kind of like, wow, the more I'm hearing about the casting for that, the more I'm interested in Suicide Squad. So now I'm more interested in the book, and it's a good book. Sean Ryan's doing a great job on the writing. It's a good book. I'm just not the biggest Suicide Squad fan. I think it says a lot to the writer that they're keeping me interested in a title that I wouldn't normally, I don't think I would be as interested in. Secrets.
I'm glad you said that with Secret Six back, you're more interested in Suicide Squad, because I had the exact same reaction, to the point where once Secret Six came back, I went and I started rereading the new Suicide Squad. Because I didn't have to think, I wish this was Suicide Squad. I wish this was Secret Six. I wish I didn't have to think that. I could actually sit down and enjoy the new Suicide Squad. And looking at it with a fresh, set of, just a fresh set of glasses now, it's kind of completely changed the reading experience for me. I've really digged the new Suicide Squad, and is it my top book? No, but it's a much it's much stronger on my list now, and it's something that it's weird that just one little thing. It's kind of like how I let go of with Batgirl. I started enjoying Batgirl title more. With the Suicide Squad, once I stopped thinking Secret Six, I could enjoy it, see it for what it is and see it for the story that it is. And, this is, again, I'm kind of looking forward to seeing where, this goes, and this another story that is just a continuation. I like continuations. I like that comfort feeling that, yes, that same people that I know, it's going forward. Oh, okay.
Secret Six #3. I'm worried. And let me explain why I'm worried. First 2 issues were phenomenal. They're worth the wait. It's a great example of a book where I don't care about the delays. I'm very worried about people maybe jumping off the book because of delays. Because it's only 3 issues so far. Now, this issue's not coming out till after Convergence. So I'm worried about that. Only because I want to see this title. I'm hoping after Convergence they get this title on schedule. Because it's great. The first 2 issues are phenomenal, and I implore people. I don't work for DC. I, have zero stake in this other than I'm a fan. Secret Six, the first 2 issues were phenomenal. take this time. If you didn't pick up the first 2 issues, if you were under a rock or something like that and didn't give it a shot, or maybe you just never touched the series before, there's only been 2 issues out so far. Read it. I encourage you to call into the show if you never read it before and tell us what you think. If you missed the first 2 issues, or if you're a current reader of it, please call in on it. This is one of those where I would do a grassroots campaign for this book. I am a huge Secret Six fan. The new series is blowing me away. It's blowing me away because it's far surpassed my expectations, which is hard because I've set the bar high for Secret Six. Secret Six is in Starman category for me. I mean, the first run of Secret Six was, it's one of those books where I've owned it multiple times. I bought the singles, I bought the trades. It was a book that was well worth rebuying because I wanted it that way. I really want this book to succeed because of how good it is. She's done a great job of reimagining the concept of Secret Six for today, making it feel fresh and new, yet having everything that made it so great before. I will say, if you read Secret Six before and maybe you wasn't your cup of tea then, give this new book a shot because it's different. I mean, she's done a great job of keeping it fresh and new. It really does feel like a brand new series. So give this one a shot if you didn't read it before. It's honestly my favorite book going right now, and it's only been 2 issues in. I would really love this series to be around. So I'm really imploring people with only 2 issues in. I don't feel like I'm asking people to make big purchases. Give this book a shot and give us your honest commentary. If you disagree with me, you think I'm nuts, just go ahead and call in on it. That's great. On the other hand, if maybe you like it for a different reason than I do, and I'd love to hear what it is. I love living through somebody else's experience for a title, and this is a book that the only thing I get scared about when a book gets delayed is kind of the way things work nowadays. I don't want people jumping off the book maybe and forgetting about it, or maybe people not giving it a shot because of delays. Please use this time to give it a shot, and I hope Post Convergence this book gets on schedule. And I think what's hurting it right now is not so much, it's only been 2 issues in, and there was really only the delay between issue 1 and 2, but now the Convergence coming in, this is a book that's starting to hit its stride. It's a bad time for Convergence to happen, I think, for this title. It's the only. I wish this book was still staying in status quo. I'm just thrilled that it's around and back, and we're going to do for sure Secret Six #3 on the show. So if anybody likes following along with us, that's going to be a play along book because I want this book to do well because I adore it. I can't speak highly enough.
And our change from issue 2 to issue 3 to some people that we know and love. So it's as you're talking, I'm just nodding my head. Yes, yes, yes. Mm-hmm. So yeah, 6 is always going to be, for us, one of those books that we, go cover to cover and just go, oh my God, you see that? How many times, have we just, delved into it, and just it's always a fun conversation because you get going, man, and I sit back here and I just listen and I kind of chuckle to myself sometimes when you just start going, and I just want to yell, Sean, take a breath.
You know what? It's not a drone-like thing though, because in all honesty, you and I would not hesitate if we hit an issue 6, we're like, it's just kind of not grabbing me. Because we both would find that to be interesting commentary for the podcast. I think it's far more interesting to be able to go on the show and go, oh my gosh, this book is great, and it's for reasons I didn't expect. That's what's blown me away about the new series, is that I'm loving it for reasons I didn't expect. The shock and surprise of what Secret Six is I think what got me in the first round. The shock and surprise is what's getting me in the second round. So she's keeping it interesting and exciting. And I think it's the fact that it's some of your lesser known characters, and she has some of her own unique characters in there. It's a nice mix of characters that she can really go to town with. And I think that's the key.
You got Strix in there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the key. It's the key to Secret Six. I mean, these are characters, and you're right. Strix is, I'm glad Strix landed somewhere, and where else better than, Secret Six. Constantine the Hellblazer, I'm excited for that because of the creative teams. I've been enjoying Constantine, so I'm glad that character's around. Dr. Fate, totally Paul Levitz has me going on that one. We already talked about Omega Men. Prez, which looks like it's going to be a 12-issue maxi series. So I'm excited for that. I actually read Prez, the original Prez, and loved it. So a new imagining of Prez, with it being Beth Ross, the first teenaged president of the United States, and kind of playing off of the whole, it's very contemporary now to talk about a female political leader in our country. I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, I've heard, scuttle and comments and whatnot about it, so I'm like, okay, let's see what this is. This is one where I really have no idea what I'm getting into. I'm definitely picking it up to, just because I got to see what it is. But yeah, I don't know. I got to wait and see on this one, because there's just so many things that in my head that could go wrong, for me, just because sometimes with, comic books and politics and stuff like that, I like a good political discussion. I like using comic books, for something that aren't just I love the dun-dun-dun, I love the drama and this and that. It's, but there's times when you can get a really good political comic going, but there's times when you can get a really bad political comic going. And I'm very nervous when politics are going to be the main subject of a comic book.
Did you read the original Prez?
No, see, that's the thing. That's why I've got nothing going into it other than just the concept of it and the general, thing behind it. So I can't judge it yet because I don't know. But these are just as I said, the thoughts that are going in my head. I'm always leery when politics and comic books are used in the same sentence, because you can get some really cool political stuff going on inside the comics. Comic books are a great medium for political discussion, social discussion, various, these topics that people don't like to openly talk about. A comic book's a great medium to use that. But you can also get something so skewed to one side that it's like, I don't want this, whether it's skewed my way or skewed the opposite way that I think. I don't want it, it's one of those things where I get worried about when I hear comic books and politics. So again, I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to see what happens, but I'm always nervous when I hear politics and comic books together.
I read the first Prez and I loved it. And it's really hard to sum up Prez in one discussion. It's not as simple as what you're saying. There's elements of that, and it is social commentary and it is political commentary, but there's a fun factor to it as well. It's a very unique story. If they tap into that on any level and make it very today, it could wind up being a sleeper hit. My worry about it is in today's market, hitting the right audience, getting people to give that a shot, because it's really a unique concept from DC that hasn't been touched in years, in the sense that really dressing it up for today, which is what they're trying to do with this brand new person being Prez. We're going to have to do it on the show just because I think it's going to be one of those, I think you're either going to really like it or you're not. And I think it's going to be fun to kind of read it and talk about that. Midnighter, I don't know the writer, but I'm by the tagline, I'm already in. Yeah. Seems to really get it. I'm hoping that's everything that because the cover is the art that's going to be on the inside. And when you take a look at that cover, I'm like, oh, they understand. And I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with Lucas Trent. So
I dig Midnighter, and it's as you said, spinning out of Grayson. Like, okay, right there. I'm like, that Midnighter is an awesome Midnighter. I'm very happy with that character. Let's see where this goes. So I'm definitely very excited and very happy about this.
Section 8, it's funny when you look at the cover, I'm like, if this wasn't Garth Ennis and John McCree, I don't know if I'd touch it. With it being Garth Ennis and John McCree, I look at that cover and go, oh my God, this is going to be awesome. It's funny how you attach a certain creative team on this. The cover in isolation, if I did not know the artist, if I didn't know the backstory of it, I would be like, for anybody out there that hasn't read Hitman, Hitman's one of my shortlist series too. I mentioned Secret Six. I mentioned before it's Preacher. I mean, it's Garth Ennis on Preacher. If you liked Preacher and you didn't read Hitman, you really should. Hitman's incredible. It's up there with Starman. There's certain series where they've hit me. I talk about Mark Waid's Flash run, for example, the Jeff Johns Flash run. Hitman's in that category. It's that kind of unique experience that you really should read cover to cover. The fact that you're putting these guys together again and giving them a book, and I'm glad they put Batman on the cover because that'll get people, I hope, to pick it up.
Well, it's taking place in Gotham City, so
right.
That's kind of going to make things interesting. And I agree with you, Garth Ennis. That for me, that was a name. I saw that, I'm like, oh, okay, I'll give it a shot. Yeah, anything that's got his name on it, I will pick up just to give it a read and see what we got going on.
Yeah. So I'm in on that. It's funny, we didn't plan on talking through all these books, but I think you almost need to because now the solicits are out. There's certain titles where I'm glad that they're sticking around, that they are. There's titles that I want to get more into that I'm not. Lobo and New Suicide Squad are a great example of two books that I'm glad I'm picking up, but I'm not through the roof on them yet. But I think they're good books. I'm for some reason I haven't made the connection yet. Suicide Squad is totally the reason that we said though. But I'm excited for DC's lineup. I think that there's a diverse lineup there. It's not all the main characters. I like those risks and experiments that they're doing. And, I hope there's attach rate on some of these because I think that's important. That's been the success of the New 52 for me. It hasn't always been the bigger characters. I've loved what they've done with the mystical universe in the New 52. Animal Man was a standout series for me. Swamp Thing was a standout series for me. Justice League Dark, standout series for me. Out of what they did with the New 52, with just some unique characters who you don't normally see in the forefront that stuck around. I'm glad to see more of that going on. I'm interested in Cyborg. I didn't see that. Did I miss it on solicits?
Yeah, I noticed that. Dark Universe, Cyborg, all of those things.
Yeah, they aren't all there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Our list didn't have everything.
Okay. The initial, I'm sorry. In July, Cyborg, Dark Universe, Mystic U, and Justice League United have been shifted.
Oh, okay.
So,
this was just the June stuff. We got July more. Okay.
Right. So those are going to be there. That's what was confusing me. So those are the books that we still need to, and we'll make it a point to talk more about those when we know more. But yeah, I'm excited for the slate. I actually was getting worried about that for a second because Cyborg's a title I'm very interested in.
I know, man. Cyborg is something I'm glad to see you got going.
Started to panic there for a second. Wait, do we miss with Cyborg? All right, on that note, Jim, why don't we go ahead and start talking some comics?
We are Crystal Men from Mercury. We have no quarrel with you.
Jim, before we kick off Grayson, we were talking about Benjamin Percy and how we didn't really know him. His new novel, The Deadlands, is coming out April 14th. And I was at Amazon's site. I actually went to his website and then I clicked on it. They've got for free on the Kindle app, or if you've got a Kindle, I've got a Kindle and I love reading books on my Kindle. They have the prologue and the first 2 chapters for free as a part of a free preview. So you click on that and you can get them. So I ended up just, while I was waiting for you to come back before we were kicking into the segment, I ended up clicking on that. I'm going to read it because I want to get to know the writer. I want to get to know what he's doing. And it had like a shout out from Stephen King, and I'm a big Stephen King fan. So it kind of drew me in. I just want to see what Benjamin Percy, the new writer of Green Arrow, is all about. So it's kind of, I just wanted to shout that out for anybody. It's kind of like, I don't know who the writer is. And if you're a Benjamin Percy fan, I don't know if you're already a fan, why you wouldn't do that. Yeah. But so it's a good, I think, message for everybody out there. And speaking of books that I'm digging right now, Grayson number 8 is written by Tom King with a plot by Tim Seeley and Tom King. Artist Mikel Janin, I'm probably butchering that. Colorist Jeremy Cox, letterer Carlos M. Mangual. Cover by Mikel Janin. Variant cover by Bill Sienkiewicz. Assistant editor is Matt Humphreys. The editor is Mark Doyle. And apologies particularly on the art, because this is a incredibly well-written, very, very pretty book that before Grayson came out, I was excited to read it because of Tom King. We were following an amazing run by Kyle Higgins on Nightwing. That was amazing. I just thought it was another one of those defining runs for the character. So we're getting a status quo change for a character that I was loving to death. I was only tentative because of the fact that it was such a status quo change. Knowing the writer and enjoying his book, I thought, oh, wow, this is going to be great because, Tom King's going to be involved, especially with the Seeley involved too and all that. Talk about a book 8 issues in and an annual that has completely met and exceeded my expectations. It's Grayson. This book is phenomenal. The artwork is always top-notch. The writing is always stellar. It's spy action set in the DC universe that is, you know what it is? Dick Grayson at his best, if he's well written, has a swagger. And if a writer knows how to put that swagger in there and make Dick Grayson that guy with these morals and a swagger and accessible, Dick Grayson's the ultimate big brother. You look at Dick Grayson, you want to be like him, but you know that like you're going to hang out with him. A lot of him's going to rub off on you, but you're just never going to be able to pull it off the way that he does. And this book exudes that. I love what they've done with Helena on this one. I love the whole spiral and how the storylines worked. They've brought in characters like Midnighter and made this series just, it shines every single month. I look forward to this book every time it comes out and continue to be blown away by it. This is a book that it needs to be, if you're not making noise about it to people, if you didn't try it because of the status quo change, pick it up. It's very easy to jump on board this book at any point in time and really start loving it. What a great read. I love its connections with the Bat universe and how they seem seamless and flawless. The use of code names and, the contact between Dick Grayson and Batman and the risks he takes. This real sense of every time he's reaching out, there's a danger to what he does, has really made this series stand out. This issue is very pivotal to the storyline that's been going on with Spiral, because it ends with something that's going to drastically change the status quo of the series moving forward. I don't know what it means for Spiral and for Dick Grayson and, the oncoming battle. I love this series. I can't say enough about it. Where are you at?
Oh God, it's funny. This is going to be one of those episodes where I'm going to have to start yelling, "Breathe, Sean, breathe," because I got the same groove as you got with this. This is something that and it's weird because some of the stuff that I know, some of the stuff that I really dig about it, I know you like about it as well. But it's weird because there's some stuff that, like, I love the fact that we don't get the inner dialogues. I love the fact that it's just the open dialogues. There's no inside, so you really don't know what exactly is going on. And that's because this is a spy world. You will never know exactly what this person across from you is thinking or doing or knowing. You're only going to get just these outside verbal stuff and the visual stuff we get. I love the way they tell this story because it's, again, it's a great usage of the physical medium of the artistry and then the dialogue and just everything that all the creative forces working together. Because you could very easily say, in an inner dialogue showing the double cross, or very easily, let it come out that someone knows, is expecting it or planning for this to happen to them. But they're going with a different route by not allowing us in their head. Even Dick Grayson's mind, we're not really getting inside his head, because it's this whole spy universe. We're never going to know what a spy is really thinking. And I love that about this story. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, it's been one of those books as it's gone on. You know what I love about it? You say that you don't get the internal dialogue, but it's more fun trying to figure out what these characters are thinking. And I think that the story is so well written and the dialogue so well written that a lot of times you can make assumptions about it. And I love that we could have a debate over motivations and thought process. Helena, I think, has been one of my favorite characters prior to the launch of the New 52. They've done a wonderful job of bringing her in and making her feel like the same character, but because of the fact that the universe is different, her status quo has changed, and she is our Helena, but she's not, and it works so well because I feel that the background change and the teaming up with Spiral and all of that has caused the shift. But when we see her with Dick Grayson in those moments, you can't help but feel like it is her, but it isn't. It's that interesting balance, if I'm making sense with the character, that I really love. Bringing her in was a tremendous choice in this book. I was so afraid we weren't going to see her because of the fact that Huntress Mini had her using that identity. I love that they played off of that. The fact that, this was the identity that Huntress adopted was of a dead person who actually wasn't dead because of the fact that she entered into the spy world. How great is that?
Yeah, and I agree with you on that, because that was something that with they introduced this Helena, this version of her, I was going, wait a minute, what are we going to get from this? And you still get kind of some of those qualities, but it's not the same. And I love the fact that I'm comfortable with this person. I'm comfortable with who she is, kind of. And there is gonna kind of, because she is a spy. I do question, because on one hand, I think I got a grasp of who she is, but again, that could just be that could just be what she wants me to think of her. And this opening panel, how they kept flashing between in the restaurant meeting with Helena, and they flashed back and forth, and it was the same basic dialogue that he was having back and forth. I love the entire time that she never says a word. And she's just sitting there, taking in what he's saying, because those are the points where I'm like, you try to figure out what's she thinking. Does she see the double cross coming? Does she see the double cross coming, but no, she's already got the swerve to protect her? What's her motivation? What's her mindset? Is she under spells? Is she under his power? Is it, what's going on here? And I love it's that mystery where you sit there and you stare at her. And again, it's beautiful artwork where they show most of the time it's the side panel, and then you get that one panel where you're looking right at her face. You can tell she's looking at him. She's thinking, and I don't think she's under mind control. I think she's got a confidence in herself that if this turns bad, I'll be able to survive this, because she has made some plans and she's laid down some groundwork to protect herself. So I think it's kind of cool seeing this and trying to figure out what's going on in her head.
Yeah, exactly. I love the shift between sort of present day, the ending of the issue, the prologue to the issue, the dialogue, and the detail in the artwork. The fact that we're getting each of these scenes from different perspectives. We're zooming in, we're zooming out. We're seeing little motions to phones and today's modern technology, and to weapons like crossbows and stuff like that. There's an intensity and a build. It's really just a great 2-page opening to an issue that then takes us to gym class with Dick Grayson.
Oh yeah. And quick thing though, we can't skip over.
Sure.
Spiral does know Clark Kent is Superman.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I thought that was a great way to open this up. The fact that they're letting us know that Spiral does have confirmation, or does, in their opinion, have confirmation that Clark Kent is Superman. So, once again, that whole truth discussion we had before, this could be spinning out of that. And so, again, there is a lot of, it's kind of neat seeing that, more people know who these people are, and especially because that was always Spiral's intention. And that was one of the reasons Bruce sent Dick into there to try to prevent, the release of information. And it's kind of a neat thing, but it was cool going from that serious moment, especially crossbow into Helena's chest, right to the fun, playful moments of the gym class.
Helena, one of the things that I've always loved about the character in her various iterations, when she was introduced as the new Huntress and the character evolved over time, she always had this great strength to her. Talk about a powerful, determined character. To see her grab that crossbow bolt and pull it out of herself, again, this is where they get this character. Everything we said before about the fact that she's a spy now and all that makes you question her a little bit. But in those moments, that's familiarity. I'm like, wait, that is Helena Bertinelli. Yeah. Yes, she's a part of this world and all that, and you get it. But still, at her core, it's who she is as a character. I love that. I love the blossoming relationship between the two of them that has gone on in this. Seeing Dick Grayson get angry and run off as an adventurer in those moments when he goes smashing through that window, what a beautiful sequence of events. This book is nothing but beautiful. Every panel, every page. I read this book very slowly when I read it, because it's a unique experience with this book, because it isn't just reading. You know how we talk about doing art reads and dialogue reads? I don't read this book the same as other books. And I think it's just an interesting marriage of art and dialogue for me. There's a really cool understanding and energy that's on the whole creative of this book that I read it at a different pace. I kind of do my art read with my dialogue read, if that makes sense. And I just kind of bask in the experience. I take my time with it and really enjoy it. I do go through and do multiple reads with this book, but it's a very different, unique experience. And I just wanted to note it because it's something special about the book in the way that I read it. And I noticed that I read it at a different pace. And I'm like, why am I doing that? And it's because I don't separate the two reads. my dialogue and art read are at the same time. It's a slower pace. It's just a different sort of look on it. I'd like to incorporate this into how I read other books because I find that this experience is unique and I really enjoy the way that I read Grayson. It's a lot of books I read by dialogue first, and I tend to go through rather quickly and then go through and bask in the art. With this one, I can't do it. It reads different for me. And I really enjoy the way that I read Grayson. And I think it's where the book really stands out as unique.
I'm so glad you brought that up because I do a little bit differently on this one as well. And for the exact same reasons you were talking about, because, well, how I mentioned before, there's no inner dialogue, there's no broad, those things. And that was always kind of things that, when I do my, my read through, that's always was the thing I'd skip over when I do the art read. Well, I don't have that to kind of skip over in the art read through. And one of the things I've kind of found myself doing is, as I'm reading through it, like you, I'm taking my time on my first read through because I'm reading the words, I'm looking at the images. And then when I do like my second read through, which was always my quote unquote art read through, I'm still seeing the words, but I'm going through and I'm looking at like the background more. Like how when she's that scene where she's pulling it out the crossbow bolt out of her chest. I'm looking at the person coming in with the med kit there, and I'm looking at the next panel, looking at the look on of the students' faces, and especially like when he's crashing through the window, I'm seeing the motion of the glass, and I'm noting, oh, that's kind of cool how they did that. And then you look back through and you see the art students, the students still looking up at him, and I find I read this completely different than the other stuff. I'm still kind of doing an art read through, but it's even a different style art read through, if that makes sense. I'm looking at the stuff that I normally, I'm making a mental note to look at the different stuff. And I think for me, that's something where I really appreciate just the beauty of this book, because this is a great story, and I'm loving story. I'm loving how they've crafted it, but as I've said, this is a merging of the writers, of the art team, of the full creative spectrum, working on all cylinders, working together, and creating something absolutely beautiful.
It's funny when we talk about there not being, the focus on internal dialogue. I think the way that they handle dialogue between characters delivers all of that.
Oh yeah,
it's just a different sort of way of looking at it, and it works really well in this book. And the art clearly, the artist clearly understands that and is delivering that as well. I love that sequences you make inferences about the characters naturally by the fact that from what they're saying to each other, how they're looking at each other, how they're reacting to situations visually. And I really enjoy that delivery. And I think it makes this book unique. I'm a fan. I read a lot of comics each month. I'm a fan of books that feel like unique experiences. But I'm also a fan of books where you're using characters that are long-standing characters. In this case, Dick Grayson and Helena Bertinelli. Midnighter is another great example of a character, long-standing character that's used properly in this book. I don't have any problem with status quo changes. I don't have any problem with new continuities, in the sense the New 52 has been a new continuity. At some point, though, you can't keep these as characters that are unidentifiable. I need that familiarity. Dick Grayson in this book feels 100% like Dick Grayson. This is Dick Grayson reacting to this life, this situation. He's my friend, same guy that I've been reading since he was running around in pixie boots. He's that guy. The writers get that. And they really like Dick Grayson a lot. And it's really clear in this story that they understand who he is and what it's like when you put him in this world. Helena Bertinelli, same thing. They care about this character a lot. They're showing a reverence to the history of this character and to fans who have enjoyed this character. I appreciate that because you can just like throw a character in and tack a name on him and kind of go, okay, we'll pull people in because of that. That's shallow. When you do that, that doesn't go anywhere. And fans quickly catch on to that, and that's where you anger fans because you haven't done your homework. You don't understand the character. These creators have clearly spent time doing their homework on these characters, who they are now. They've thought about how would these characters naturally react in this world on the basis of who we know them to be. There's a huge distinction between that and just tacking a character's name onto a title. And that's where a book starts to have depth. And you bring in longtime fans that were kind of like, ooh, I don't know about this. Now all of a sudden you go, well, this is the greatest thing ever. This is one of those books where I'm honestly going to say 8 issues in, I'm not thinking about him going back to being Nightwing. And I don't have any issue if he does, so don't get me wrong on that one. So people are like, well, I'm a Nightwing fan. So am I. I've been reading Nightwing since he turned into Nightwing. So I get it. I love Nightwing. Don't get me wrong when I'm saying that. As a testament to the creative on this book, though, they've got me so convinced this is Dick Grayson and that this just makes sense and it works and it's exciting and it's fresh and he's such a standout in this book and a leader and he feels like the guy that was Batman at some point. You know, he feels like he's evolved, that if they keep him Dick Grayson Master Spy and like this becomes his status quo, and at some point in time, this Dick Grayson Master Spy leads the Titans or leads whoever, you know, or is on the Justice League or whatever, I'd have zero issue with it because he's evolved. I feel like he's a character that has had forward momentum. We talked about Batgirl, which we're starting to like again and enjoy. The issue with that was she felt like she de-aged. This book, it's different. And the reason why the attachment was immediate with this book is they didn't throw out everything that came before. And I'm not saying that the Batgirl team did that, but this book feels like it's a natural, fluid evolution. Batgirl was jarring at first. Now I'm getting into the groove and I'm digging it. This book I dug right from the beginning because it felt like a very fluid evolution. It came out of a story. It was very story-driven. And didn't ignore anything that came before. This feels like a guy who donned the Batman outfit. And that's so critical to me to this book. It's kudos to the team. I'm digging Grayson. I think it's just a terrific title. And I hope people are trying this that maybe haven't read a Dick Grayson book. Because it's fantastic. I would hand this to a James Bond fan in an instant and say, you should be reading comics because you get this kind of storytelling in it. But yet I would have no problem handing this to a lapsed Nightwing reader and saying, you should read Dick Grayson now. This is still Nightwing. He's now a super spy, but it's Nightwing. And you get a few issues in, you're going to realize it's the same dude.
Well, creative team, obviously, you can tell they love Nightwing about as much as you do, I think. You know, because you kind of can we can tell that you dig the character, Sean. You know?
A little bit.
But one of the things that because as you're talking, I'm nodding my head, just going along and agreeing with you that this is Dick Grayson, this is Nightwing. We still get that same feel, and I love the fact that they took him out of the superhero universe, put him into this universe, gave us a reason why he's here, and gave us his whole story as to why Dick Grayson's here and why he's doing what he's doing, and it makes perfect sense and it fits, and him being who he is and how he's reacting to everything is perfect. But I also love the fact that we have these great supporting casts, and it's not just Lena Bertinelli who's awesome. It's not just this Agent 1 guy who's pretty cool, but I'm digging the students as well. I'm digging the villains, Minos. I'm digging Midnighter's appearance. This right here is just a great character storytelling. You know, it's... You know, we've got a lot of stuff that, you know, you've got the super edge of spyness and, you know, superpowers kind of people meshing toward sort of the regular people who are just a little bit above everybody else, who can do a little bit better than you can. You know, so you got that kind of neat factor, but there's still kind of a believability to it on the spy side. I think that's something I dig with a lot of some of the cool James Bond stories to me, because you mentioned Bond. I like a good James Bond story where I look at it going, you know, if I had the correct training and, you know, discipline, I could maybe pull that off. Same thing with the Dick Grayson stuff. If I had, you know, had trained as a gymnast and whatnot and had, you know, was able to, you know, condition my, you know, my physical shape and all that, I could actually do some of this stuff. And I like seeing that glimmer of it, but also knowing in the back of my head, I really couldn't do it with that same style though. There is that strut. There is that swagger. There is that level of confidence that Dick Grayson has to him. And that's what makes him a hero. That's what makes him a superhero. You know, he's not just a guy who can, who's trained. There is just that little bit above just the training. And I think it's that mysterious X factor that makes him a hero. And I love seeing that still in this universe. Still today, we're still getting that mysterious swagger and strut.
It's funny. Do you watch Person of Interest?
No, I don't.
Okay. Person of Interest is done by Christopher Nolan's brother and by David Goyer. They created the concept behind the series. The only reason why I'm mentioning it in light of this book is I was looking at this and we're seeing more comic properties adapted for television. One thing I like about Person of Interest is the action and, the fact that it's a little bit more, it's like CIA agents and that type of thing. I read this book, and with its connection to the superhero world and the fact that it's so, I wouldn't change a thing about that. I would put this on television in an instant. This would be a great TV show. I'm talking about live action. At first, when I was looking at the great art, I was like, this would be great animated. And I'm like, I don't know that animated they'd be able to nail the art the way that it's, and this is just a compliment to the art team. You'd have to nail this art because I want this in an absolute edition. I really do. I haven't said that in a long time, not because there aren't books that don't warrant it, but I really think an absolute edition, with how judicious they are with those, it needs to be a run with terrific art consistently through it. And this book is building really every issue that. So I would love to see Grayson eventually collected, and I'm hoping it's a big enough seller that they would look at it and kind of go, "Oh, maybe this series, let's do an oversized." Because I would love to see this art oversized. I really, really would. I just think it would work really well like this. But I would love to see this eventually live action. I think this would be a great live action television series. I think they've got it right there. I think these writers and the art team have developed a world that belongs on television. Because this action, when you're looking at the sequence with Paragon and Agent 1 and Dick Grayson, I love the way they're playing off each other. I love the slightly different training between the two of them and how it plays into that whole sequence. It really is just a gorgeous, the spread of the two of them fighting where it's like oversized and you've got like different versions of those characters. There's no like lines blocking panels or anything like that. They become the panels. Is gorgeous. I mean, it's absolutely stunning, but I would love to see that in lieu of like how Arrow does action so well. I think this show would be so wonderful as a television show. Grayson, just call it Grayson. Get out there and do this. I think it would really do well on television because I think you just got a great premise here. And I would do it, this premise. I would absolutely do this premise on television.
Oh, God, yeah. And I agree with you. I think this would be another one of those really cool series. And that panel, that 2-page spread fight sequence is one of those things where I just absolutely, I found myself staring at this and just going through. And again, dialogue right along with the artwork is just so great where he's breaking down what to fight for. I've trained to fight against them.
Right.
I fought beside the Justice League, trained to fight against them. And I love this, that characterization, because again, he is trained by the Bat. So the Bat's going to train him just in case, and they all have the weaknesses. Cyborg's blast, preceded by a small crackle. Listen for it, then move. And I love it. Each one of those things. There's just boom, 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 little things. And they show this quote unquote normal person taking on this guy with all these powers and how he's able to do it, why he's able to do it. So it's, again, if I was disciplined, if I had the training, I could maybe pull this off. But I'm still not Dick Grayson. It's no matter how hard I train, there's still going to be that moment where I'm not exactly Dick Grayson. So I love the fact that you do need to have somebody that is him that can actually pull this off.
The analysis, I so totally agree with you. The analysis of how he would not just take down each of the Justice League members, but what you have to worry about, and sharing that so the two of them survive. At this point, this is information Dick wouldn't reveal freely because he wouldn't want to compromise the Justice League members. But in this case, it's about saving a life. Dick Grayson's all about that. Agent 1 is somebody whose life right now he wants to save. He could keep that information to himself so he survives. That's not Dick Grayson. He's sharing it so they both survive. Yeah. And recognizing the fact that, we need to team up together. It ups my chances for survival. It also ups your chances for survival. I loved the way this whole sequence played out in dialogue, in art. It was really just a great battle. Dick Grayson should look like poetry in motion. And he always looks like it in this book. Really terrific part of this is the part where you're just like amazed and in awe of the athleticism. It looks different than Bruce Wayne. It has to look different than Bruce Wayne. Bruce is stronger. He's bulkier. And I'm always in awe of the physical strength of Bruce Wayne. Dick Grayson's all about balance, and motion and using your weight to its advantage, but also using your opponent's weight against them. Because he's not quite as big as Batman. And I've always liked the difference between the two. I think great writers and great artists understand that and showcase that. And it's where you've got, when Dan DiDio was talking about killing off Dick Grayson, this is why he got the outcry. Because there are fans who get the difference between the two. And it's not cookie cutter. There's a need for Dick Grayson. He fills a role that no other Robin does. And it's what separates him from Tim Drake. It's what's always, and I love, and and don't get me wrong, I'm not diminishing Tim Drake by saying that. Tim Drake is not Dick Grayson. Dick Grayson's not Tim Drake. They're standouts. Jason Todd, they had to rework him because he originally was Dick Grayson light. Then they turned him into something unique, and he became his own valid entity because of that. With Tim Drake, they made a smart move by not trying to make him Dick Grayson, because Dick Grayson is really a unique, well-developed character, and this series just showcases that.
Yeah, and it's funny because I chuckle, myself sometimes, because, when we first got started all those years ago, that I didn't really know who, Dick Grayson was. I knew who he was, but I didn't really quote unquote know him. I really didn't understand what made him tick because I never had a lengthy comic book exposure to the guy. And it was with him, the 1 year later, The Outsiders, where I started seeing him as Nightwing, then started reading back stuff. And, as things just evolved with the character and just how the flow through and how I got this groove and understanding and love of this character that I understand. I look back at the guy I was back then. I go, of course, what are you talking about, dummy? This is who he is. And, and I want to, it's funny just the growth I've had with the character and just seeing some of the stuff where I'm looking at these panels going, that's classic Dick Grayson. And I can say that knowing that is a classic style to him. And just everything how with this fight sequence where it's not even him, sharing the secrets and showing how to do it, but it's them working together as a team. And then even when the students roll in, it's not about, it's taking advantage of their strike and using them to get into position to get the gun, for them to toss him the pistol. And there's some really cool moments that I was like, this is him in a team dynamic, but it's still him standing out within this team, showing just how awesome he is. But he's, again, there is just so much about him that I'm like, dang, this guy is awesome.
I absolutely loved this whole dialogue sequence. Thank God we never got the heart. We never got the heart. It has Holy Child in the Desert, Batman, of course. What a great choice. And here's the funny part. You can add humor into a sequence and make a great action movie. That added humor and it made a great action movie. It didn't diminish the intensity of the sequence. It gave us a familiarity to Batman's past, with Robin and how that all worked out. But at the same time, flushed in. I couldn't agree with you more about you mentioned the kids earlier as a supporting cast. When they show up in the costumes that are very reminiscent of classic Batwoman costumes, Kathy Kane, I love seeing how that plays out. It was great to see Dick Grayson show that, I know how to use guns.
Well, that was a great moment. It's like, wait, Agent 8 said you were a horrible shot. That's what spies do. We lie. That was awesome. I love that.
Here's the question with Minos or Minos, however you pronounce it.
Yeah.
With the fact that we've seen multiple clones of him, didn't we see 3 in one of the issues?
Yeah, I think we've seen 3 is the most.
Did we see 3 die? Or did we see 2 die in this issue?
We've only saw 2 die in this issue. Because we got the one where he's sitting there where Helena, hits him in the back, and kills him. And I love the fact that she adjusts her sights just slightly off so that his heart shot wouldn't have hit her in the heart. It would just barely missed. And then later we see the other guy who meets the Spider. He goes down. So there may be one more out there.
Yeah, yeah. Which is what, when we get to the ending sequence and we see that whole thing where he starts to reveal his name and all that kind of stuff, do you think that was really him? Or is he still out there?
I honestly think it's not just even clone. Because what if because it's always the blurred face. So what if it's 3 different guys who all just have the similar type of builds and stuff like that?
Here's the question. Is there a symbiotic relationship there too?
Right.
I don't know. I love the mystery of this. Like, if he's dead, great. I don't know that it's that simple. He's got to come back, right?
I don't think he's dead.
Right.
Again, it's they could very easily explain it that we've seen 3, we've seen 2 die here.
Right.
So there's one more out there. Now, whether that's a clone, whether that's a separate body, whether that's, I don't know. There's a lot that can go on here. But again, I'm like, it's kind of neat to see the fact that, we see him die, then we see the thing, wait a minute, hold on. And then it dawned on me, oh yeah, there's multiples of him. So there's still good villains I like the fact that when good villains still can come back and come back easily, not with some, you get some cool stories sometimes explaining somebody's return, but this is a very simple explanation that there's still one more out there. So it's, again, throughout the whole spy thing, you never know what's going on, and you never truly know until that last swerve, because he's sitting there telling this reporter thinking, hey, all the truth's going to get out there. No, it turns out he's talking to Agent Zero, the Spider on the web. Yeah. And I love the fact that at the last moment, right before he dies, he's like, oh no, he realized who he's talking to. He realizes he's about to die. And he's like, before you do it, let the secret has to come out why I did this. My name is. Honestly, Mr. Whatever, do you really think I care? And I love that ending. That was just a absolutely fabulous ending with whoever this Agent Zero is, the Spider in the web. I don't know who she is, but I'm curious to see, what's going down with her. Because again, he mentioned earlier that she's also a reporter. And is it a reporter we already know? Is this somebody that's been throughout the universe? I'm like, man,
there were moments where I thought it might be Lois Lane.
Me too. Oh, big time. Me too. And I'm looking at, I'm looking at signs around in the backdrop, seeing if I can see Metropolis somewhere, or if I can see a clue as to what city she's in. Because we get, it's long dark hair, female. We're not exactly sure who she is, though, because there's no true clue as to who it is. And I'm like, man, that's kind of neat. I wonder when again, as one mystery ends, a whole nother one starts up. And, we know from solicits, Helena takes over, Spiral, and Dick Grayson gets a new partner. So who's going to be the new partner? Is she going to be the new partner? I don't know. There's a lot can happen here.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's one of my favorite books right now. Month in, month out, it always delivers. And, it's funny. That's a book I never stockpile. Grayson's one of those. It comes out, I read, I enjoy. It's funny that we both have the same experience with that we read this book a little differently than any other title. It says a lot about the unique nature of what's been crafted here, that we both read it a little differently than how we normally approach a comic. I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah. Our next discussion will be on Flash number 39. The writers are Robert Venditti and Van Jensen. Pencils by Brett Booth, inker Norm Rapmund, colorist Andrew Dalhouse, with letterer Pat Brousset, cover by Booth, Rapmund, and Dalhouse, with the Harley Quinn variant cover by Amanda Connor and Paul Mounts. Assistant editor Amedeo Torretino, and group editor Brian Cunningham. And wow, did I butcher a couple names there? I apologize. Yeah.
It's I'm glad you said that, because this book is spectacular.
Oh my God, yeah.
I love The Flash every month. If there's one book that's been, I think, a very consistent read throughout the New 52. Well, I think you and I had different experiences with The Flash in the New 52. I've loved it since the beginning. I think we were in different places on the book. And correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I've loved it since all 39 issues of this series has been just brilliant to me. I've loved The Flash. And we've gone through 2 different creative teams, and I think they've kept this book running. I really didn't mean that to be a pun. One of the things that I've really loved about this book, though, is Barry Allen is likable. You really like Barry Allen. He's still that police forensics guy and all that stuff, the brainy scientist and all that, but there's a personality to him. There's a likability to him. He's an everyman as well, and he's just a genuine good guy in an era where it almost seems like it's actually it's funny to do this right after Dick Grayson, because I think Dick Grayson has these qualities too. It's an era where usually there has to be some major inherent flaw in a hero. There's got to be some darkness to them in order to hook readers in. I think Grayson and Barry Allen are examples of, you don't always have to do that. You can have 2 characters that are really tried and true heroes, have a code and have an ethics to them and, really stand for something and inspire you. And Barry Allen's one of those guys. I think when he's written well, this is what people loved about Wally West. I mean, I get that vibe out of him right now. If you had asked me a decade ago who my Flash was, I would have said Wally West. If you ask me now, it's Barry Allen. It's this Barry Allen, especially with this going on and the TV show. I think, honestly, if you're a fan of the TV show and you don't read The Flash, you should be reading this book. This is a great book, and there's a lot of connectability to the Flash TV show here in theme and tone. What a great book.
Yeah, I think I've always digged the Flash.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's one of those. This is one of the titles that I always kind of had a groove for. I'm trying to remember, because to be honest with you, I'm loving this Barry, and I'm loving getting to know him. And I think part of this came from when we first started seeing him on Forever Night, and just not Forever with the Dead Rising. That whole story arc.
I was gonna say, wasn't Forever Night like a vampire TV show or something?
Yeah, I know. Blackest Night. Yeah. Oh boy, yeah. Still a little sick here, folks. I'm going to blame a lot of this on the illness, but when we had the whole Blackest Night,
it's going to be like a year from now. You're going to say I'm still sick.
I'm going to keep throwing that out there, but because that was really kind of my first, starting to dealing with who Barry is, and I saw just that whole, where you had that whole line with telling the Justice League, and it was just, well, actually, wait, that wasn't Barry, that was Adam, wasn't that? Or was that? I'm drawing a blank now who that was, but oh boy,
it's because you're still sick.
Yes, I'm still sick. Dang it. But I'm going to continue on. That positive energy that you talk about with Barry, and I do like that, seeing that, and that's something that came through on the TV show that I'm digging about the TV show. That's something that that makes Barry that kind of coolness to him, and he has his flaws, and I'm still getting the groove of who Barry is, throughout these 39 issues. But I've got a comfort level with the character, and I've got a comfort level with everyone with his supporting cast now. And this is definitely one of those titles that I really enjoy, and I pick it up, and you sit there and you start seeing the villains. You start trying to break down, how is Barry going to beat them? How is Barry going to deal with this? What's he going to do in this situation? And especially with the current storylines, how we have the non-Barry there. We've got the disgruntled, jaded, darker version of Barry from the future running around as Barry Allen. So we're seeing just this dramatic difference in how he is, and we're seeing characters and people recognize, hey, something's not right here. This isn't exactly the Flash. What's going on here? And I like seeing that they can recognize that there's something different about the Flash. They can see that there's something not completely kosher with him.
See, I don't think it's the fact that you're sick. I think you are the evil Jim from the far future that's come back and taken Jim's place. And that's the reason why you're having some of these issues.
Well, if I was the evil Jim from the future, I'd be doing a wonderful job, because, it'd be the opposite of the regular me.
That's exactly what evil Jim would say to blend in.
I'm just that clever.
Hey, after the Clue Master, I'm not going to get fooled. So, I mean, this book is just fantastic. I love the villains. I like that we're seeing some of our classic favorites from the Rogues, but we're also having some introductions or some resurrections of classic villains. So there's a nice combination of them. I love how this book opened up with, kind of clarifying a villain's role. After that, we shift to today and we start taking a look at Iris and that she's catching on to what's going on with the Flash. She's seen some things. This is an interesting journey for Iris West and Barry because, this is clearly her as the reporter. And Patty, I absolutely adore Patty. I find myself rooting for Iris. I find myself rooting for Patty. I find myself rooting for Barry. This is obviously going to change a lot of his relationships. It's going to change. You come back and you're Barry Allen. Aren't you going to kind of go, Patty, why didn't you know it wasn't me?
Yeah.
But yet I see Patty's side of it too, because it is him, sort of. It's a very interesting twist in all this. But I like how Iris and Patty are starting to discover that there's something going on with Barry. There's some change that's happened, or the Flash, depending on how you want to look at it. The two of them having that secret meeting and really talking it out. I love the interplay of this. And this only happens when you've got a story arc that is epic. This has been, when I talk about the Wade run that I loved and the Jeff Johns run that I loved, this is the hallmark of those runs. They're storylines that aren't one or two issues. They expand over time. And, they play around with all of the elements that make the Flash cool, like time travel and super speed and stuff like that you've got going on in here. We've really run the whole gambit on this. What's making the TV show work right now is they aren't ignoring these elements. They're part of the TV show. This is the best of the Flash right now. This series is awesome and has really benefited. I think they resurrected what's great about the Flash with the New 52. This was a character that benefited from the New 52, the Flash, I think.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. And it's one of the things that I remember when this first came out, who you're rooting for, Patty or Iris, and, because there's always Barry and Iris, then Patty. I always said I was worried about Patty just because if it's always been Barry and Iris, what's going to happen to her? And I love seeing, as it looked like initially she was going to go out, and no, she's back in, and then she's drifting around. But this meeting between the two of them, the artwork on this sequence was absolutely amazing for me. Because one, you look at just the massive background with all the books and just, that was a lot of detail that was put in there, and where they're writing in covers, titles, and stuff like that. And I'm just like, wow, that's some impressive stuff. But then you get to the Patty's facial expressions, where you see her, it can't be. He wouldn't kill. He never would. And just, you see that sadness to her, and you see that it's, she's like, this is my boyfriend we're talking about. This is the guy I love. I'm not going to, throw him under the bus here. It's got to be something else. And I love those moments, these couple panel sequences.
Brett Booth was on an Image book called Backlash, and I really enjoyed that book. And it's fun to see an evolution of an artist. Now we're here and there's some great storytelling going on with this, and seeing, his take on the Flash. This was a book I was very worried about with the changing creative teams when, the creative team of this left and went to Detective Comics, because I really liked the stylized look of the Flash a lot. It was really just a wonderful, wonderful book. I wanted to see that keep going. This creative team has done a great job of building off of what came before and carving out something of their own and keeping this book fresh and interesting and unique. Here's what I got. I think this was one of those books where you were always saying that you enjoyed it, but you weren't on the same level that I was with it, because I think I was gushing about this right out of the starting gate, and it matches what your comment was. You said this has been a getting to know you process for you getting to know Barry Allen. And that kind of makes sense, because we had a very different reading experience with The Flash over the years. I've read a lot more. And I think in a different way it was a getting to know you experience for me, because it was like, oh, wait, this is fun, Barry. And I really like fun, Barry. These stories are just as edgy as any other story out there, but you don't have to make the hero blatantly a villain to do that. Far more interesting when you bring future Barry here, and he shows you that contrast. Not current Barry. our Barry is still a tried and true hero. I love the sequences with future Barry. I love the way this is pacing out. I don't need this story to wrap up before Convergence. Like, I don't need this to end in one issue. This is one that I'm thinking is going to be a cliffhanger that's going to play out after Convergence. And I'm hoping that Convergence doesn't force these writers to slam this story shut. I didn't read the solicits on purpose, other than the fact that I looked to see if the creative team was staying the same for The Flash, because that's what I want. So I didn't really read the solicits to see if this storyline's continuing in it. But I hope it is, because I want to see this play out, because it's not going to be a simple, clean ending, all of this. It's not just going to be the battle between the two of these guys. It's the damage this guy's done to the Flash's reputation, both in his professional and his personal life. That is going to be interesting.
Yeah, because that's going to be the biggest part, I think. Because professional life, there's limited people who know something's going on. Mm-hmm. You know, most people still see the Flash. Oh, he's got a blue costume, but not anything different with him. They're just now starting to expose it, and I think professional wise, they can really keep that on track, especially if the Barry comes back and defeats future Barry in front of, Patty and Iris, and shows them, hey, the real Flash is here. The other Flash is now gone. I think they could really actually do some, good for it, protect his professional image if they see that. It's the personal side that I think is going to be the biggest problem, because you mentioned it earlier with Barry and, Patty having conversations saying, hey, how come you didn't know it was me? You spent time with this guy. He could have been different. He must have been different than me, just how he approached life and whatnot. So I think that is this part of the story I'm really looking forward to, is the personal side of it. And I think that's been something that the Flash story has really given us some great stories on the personal side of Barry dealing with, his relationship, and Barry dealing with Iris, and dealing with Wally West, and just everything. He's trying to balance everything at once, and he's not complete. He's the fastest man alive, but he still can't be, in two places at once. He still has those regular, those normal people stuff that we have to deal with, that he's dealing with. And I like seeing that side of it. Plus, I do enjoy seeing that upbeat Barry going, hey, you got to do this, do that. And it's that he's got that kind of that Superman style to him, where he's in the light. He's bright. He's shiny. He's not, so sulking in the shadows, or he's not, beating up the bad guys because they're afraid of him like Batman, which is cool. I'm not knocking it, but I do like that superhero that stands out in the light. So it's, again, he's a character that, as I've said, I'm growing. I'm really digging this guy, and I'm digging the concept of the Flash. And it's, I start reading and I start thinking, okay, how is he going to solve this? What's going to happen next? Where's this going? And it's, I love the ride.
I love the pterodactyls and how that whole sequence played out. With Selkirk, I didn't see it coming, and I felt like I should. Did you see, the swerve coming with Selkirk, where he was planning to turn on Barry all along?
100%.
Did you? Good for you. I didn't see it.
Completely, from the beginning of this, I was like, man, DTA, Barry. DTA, man, don't trust him. Don't trust them. And as it's just playing out, and I didn't know exactly how the double cross was going to happen, or I didn't know exactly he was going to use Barry as the lightning rod for him to cross back over, or any of that. But I knew there was going to be a double cross there, big time. And I felt bad for the people there who get killed trying to get him there, because again, those are some, in a couple issues, you kind of get the groove of who these people are. You're like, this is not a bad society. And again, I'm thinking this land would be a perfect place for Overload, because you think about his power set, where it's the energy is just, too much energy is killing him. Well, this is a land that doesn't have any of that. This is exactly his peaceful utopia. This is the place where Barry were to put this guy and say, hey, this is where you're going to live. That guy would be happy to live there, because there's absolutely no interference. There's no electricity, none of that stuff that causes him pain. That would be the perfect society for him. I'm hoping somehow happens and that crossover happens.
Yeah, yeah, it's an interesting kind of way that the story goes. I should have seen it coming. That's why I preface that with I should have seen Selkirk. I didn't see it coming. I think I was so focused on the inevitable fight between Barry and Barry
Yeah.
that I was taking Selkirk at face value. And I wanted Selkirk to be everything that he was saying that he was, and that's what I love, that it swerved me. And I totally get how you like reached your conclusion that like don't trust this guy or anything like that. I get it. I can totally see how you got to that point. I really liked that I didn't know. I like that the creative team got me on that one. It made for a fun story. I like that I was bonking myself on the head going, you idiot. It was right there in front of you. It was one of those where I was like, duh.
Well, and in your defense, they did a really great job with Selkirk, especially that side-by-side panel that shows future Barry beating up Overlord just as Selkirk's jumping and saving Barry's life. Mm-hmm. Those are some really great moments showing, Selkirk risking his life. He's jumping off of a cliff to save Barry's life. Now, he's doing it for ulterior motives, but they really had those kind of heroic moments. And, it even shows him dealing with the team saying, hey, conserve your ammo, we'll avenge your brother later, and you see him, living in the moment, and you're like, okay, this is, I could completely see where you see this guy as a good guy, but it was just, again, I'm a professional skeptic. So when they first introduced the character and just when he started talking about how he's always studied the Speed Force and how because he's studying the Speed Force, he got locked in this world. I'm thinking, okay, this guy wants to go home. This guy wants to go back. And that's where my whole mindset went from, just because I don't trust people. But I loved just how this thing played out, because even though I thought it was going to happen, I still loved how the swerve played out. I still love the fact that you see Barry in this temple going, wow, a Speed Force temple. And you see him just looking at things and studying. And then at the last minute, he realizes, wait a minute, you needed, oh no, donk, and he gets hit in the head with, rifle, blow to the back of the head, knocking him out. I was like, man, that is awesome.
I love the closing sequence with the two of them, where you see that like half of the present day future Barry and half of our Barry in the past. The artwork is just gorgeous. This series has really just been a testament to just great art, great storytelling, epic stories. Epic stories are really important to me in The Flash. This is a great example of events can happen in your main titles. Events should happen in your main titles. I'm thrilled to death and excited about the fact that next week we're going to be doing our Raging Oscars show, and then after that we're going to be jumping into 2 months of doing episodes revolving around Convergence, and then jumping back to our main books. I'm excited for the event. I think it's going to be great. But here's the thing. I love that right now, this is a big, high-energy event for me. I'm super excited to see where this story goes. This is one of those that I want to see this story collected, and when it's collected, I'm going to buy it because this is a story I will reread again and again because it's great. Jim, our last book we're going to chat about is going to be Wonder Woman number 39, War Torn, Chapter 4. The writer is Meredith Finch. The penciler is David Finch. The inker is Jonathan Glapian. The colorist is Sonia Obach. The letterer is Rob Lay. The cover by Finch, Bott, and Obach. A variant cover by Emanuela Lupacchino and Tomeo More. Harley Quinn variant cover by Phil Jimenez and Hi-Fi after Rich Butler. Assistant editor is David Pina. Group editor is Matt Idelson. Wonder Woman created by William Moulton Marston. Superman created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster by special arrangement with the Jerry Siegel family. And they didn't put it here, but Batman was created by Bob Kane.
Let's throw it all in there, man.
And paper was created by... Apologies for any name butchery, because this was another one of those books where, very similar to what we were talking about, actually, these 3 books that we're talking about have something in common. They were preceded by really great titles. They really were. I loved what was going on with Nightwing in the New 52. Really loved what was going on in The Flash of the New 52 and Wonder Woman in the New 52. Creative changes in all of these titles become a very scary thing because the books were so good that came before. I think these are great examples of 3 successful transitions to new creative teams who honored what came before, but have also advanced the characters. Loving how they brought in Donna Troy into this storyline. I just think it's a really, really great book. The artwork is very beautiful. It's a great title. I love what's going on with the Amazons, male and female, and the fact that this isn't something that was going to be clean. We knew there was going to be rising tensions, and anytime you've got rising tensions in a community, there is an opportunity for someone to take advantage of that by saying the right political things. What a great story.
Oh, Donna. Oh, Donna. You have no idea how upset the fact that I can't sing right now, that it actually hurts when I sing. Mm-hmm. Oh, man, because I tell you, everything you just said, I completely agree with you on. And this is one of those titles where I'm not knocking what came before. I really, really loved what came before. But for me, creative team change has actually turned Wonder Woman up a notch for me. I'm enjoying this more than what came before, and I really digged what came before that. I was really loving where, it was one of those things with the New 52 Wonder Woman. I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of neat, kind of cool, yeah. Once we got this creative team change in there, especially this art team, oh my God, I absolutely love the look of this book.
Yes,
this is one of those things where I'm like, dang, this is and. Excuse me. This is, pencil, ink, coloring, lettering, everybody working on all cylinders, firing together as a team, right along with the stories. This is something that I'm really loving about the Wonder Woman title. And this is another one of those titles where if people didn't like the direction it was before, I highly recommend picking her up again because to me, this has that same love that we had when Gail Simone had that run. I have that same type of feelings towards this run as well. This version of Diana, this version of the Amazon queen princess who's got to balance the world on, Themyscira as well as her role in the modern world as Wonder Woman. And it's the whole political, we had that commentary earlier about political intrigue. Right here is how I love when political intrigue is used in a comic because it's a great exploration of just how people would take advantage of her being away. People would send, and the bad guys are sending extra baddies just to bring the point home to everybody saying, hey, our queen's not here. We need a queen that's representing us. We need a queen that's here. Oh, by the way, we got this person ready to go. And I love just how everything played out there. This was, an absolutely beautifully crafted story, visually as well as story-wise. I'm really excited for where this is going. And then considering this same creative team is continuing on afterwards, I'm very Wonder Woman happy right now.
Yeah, and I would agree with everything that you're saying. I think what works for me on this, with Wonder Woman in particular, I looked at the previous run as being like this, we're defining the foundation of the lore of what gods look like and Wonder Woman's whole backstory looks like in the New 52. Let's pin this down. Let's really define how we look at Wonder Woman's backstory. So I think now that they've done that and did it so well, you can really get to really focused Wonder Woman stories. And I think everything that came before was needed, and I think it did something very unique. It really was, I look at it as a Wonder Woman origin story told through a modern day lens, in the sense that they were having this current day today adventure, but we were getting to know who each of the gods were, what their relationship was with Wonder Woman, what her origin was, what we thought we knew about Wonder Woman's origin wasn't exactly what the truth was, how she interacts with each member of her family. I think we needed all those things in place first. Then you bring back the Amazons, and now we're getting to, okay, now we got something. And I think you needed that setup in order to get to this. I agree with what you're saying. I think this is better now.
Yeah.
And that's, I'm very cautious to say that because I loved what came before and I think it was so great. But I think because of the fact that you've done all that now and done it so well and established that foundation, once you got a great foundation in place, you want nothing more than to experience great adventures with the character. You don't need to lay the foundation anymore. It's already been done. We know who she is now. This has been defined. Let's move forward with her. And let's talk about some of the implications of what happened with that. If she didn't become the God of War of that run, we wouldn't be having some of the internal strife that's going on between her and the Justice League, her internally, her and Superman, her and her family, her and the Amazons. All of this stuff is coming together, and people are taking advantage of it because of what happened, because of the status quo in that series. I love the fact that this creative team embraced all of it and said, okay, this has been laid out. What can we do with it? What can we do to really make fans think, and get excited for what's going on? I love the action bits in this. The artwork, I agree with you, is stunning in this. It's really, really terrific stuff. There's something special, and I think it's because, you've got David Finch and his wife working together on this book. I think they're just, going out of their way to really make a name for this title. I encourage people, if you dropped this title because of the fact that you're like, Azzarello's leaving and we're not going to, pick up this book because of it, give it a shot. And I would recommend giving it a few issues of the run, because I think you really need to read a few issues of this to really understand what's going on here. But terrific. The interactions with the Justice League, I think, are a highlight. It's some of the best interactions between these three members in the Justice League that I think have been written yet in the New 52.
Yeah, oh God, yeah. And it's funny because you're talking about just how we got David and Meredith Finch working together, and I agree with you, but also inking and coloring.
Oh, yeah.
I got to completely just, and I know you mean it as well, but I just want to make sure it's 100% said publicly that just some of these sequences with the coloring on Diana's face, the pencils, yes, there's amazing pencil work, but that it's the inking that brings it to life. And then that coloring with some of the shading, especially when Diana is just seeing just the horror that is going on there. And you could see that sadness, and you could see that we have to stop this now. There's hope someone's still alive. You could see that kind of thing. And then she sees one of the monsters, and she goes from the, oh my God, to monster, and you see the God of War come out. I love just those couple panels spread going through from one page to another, and it's still the exact same person. It's still the thing, and you see that just that coming out, that anger, that rage. You see the Amazon warrior. You see the God of War come out. I absolutely love those moments because, it's, again, it's on one hand, you could say, yes, it's cool visual beat, bam, bam, beat down. But then there's so much more to the story of how much damage Diana is doing to this guy. What she, and it's, I absolutely love just the intricacies of the violence and the gore that we get in these details. And I'm like, man, this is some beautiful, beautiful gore is absolutely wonderful.
Here's one of my favorite sequences. And I agree with everything you just said. But when Diana comes back when Clark said, have you forgotten who we are, who you are, I should say. Look around you. Is there even anyone left for us to save? No, there were no survivors. Please go. I really just need to be alone right now. All those people. When she's holding her head and the tears are coming out, that comes from not just from her rage, that comes from the great compassion. Yeah. Diana is one of those characters, and I loved there was that future story with Diana that was out recently. It was with Superman and Wonder Woman, where she embraced the compassion. I think in this sequence, it's the same thing. We're seeing the compassion is driving the rage and all of that. She's on the quest for balance, trying to find out who she is and what her balance is. And I like this journey a great deal. I think you mentioned Gail Simone's run and how much you liked that. What I loved about that run was getting to know her as a multifaceted person. She's not a one-dimensional character. She's a multi-dimensional character. It's not as simple as she's the Amazon warrior. She has a wide variety of feelings that come from a wide variety of places. This is embracing that. I really dig that about this book. And those sequences are not only gorgeous, but they're well written with the dialogue. It just all blends very well together. I think that's really important. I think it's a landmark of all three of these books that we've been reading today. Great art, great dialogue, a great story that comes from a creative team that blends together. Nothing feels awkward in either of these three titles that we just discussed. There's a nice flow through the entire issue. And it has to do with, I just think there just being a great understanding and energy between the creative teams working on them. I think this is really important as an example. You know, when you take a look at what's DC Comics going to be like Post Convergence, you need to look at these 3 books and start saying, we want to put together more of this. And we also want to get the word out to people, though, that they should be reading this. I mean, these are books that, like, I'm glad we're talking about, because as we're discussing them, I'm seeing more of the connections between these titles than I realized when we originally picked them. We picked them because we're digging these books. It's one of the reasons, like, we wouldn't talked about any of these 3 books. We should really talk about them. And it's because we like them so much that we wanted to talk about them. And this is exactly what they all have in common. They're great creative teams, and they're 3 unique experiences.
You know something? I just realized this now. Mm-hmm. We're not getting the inner dialogue stuff. All the dialogue we're seeing is all external dialogue. But I'll be honest with you, I didn't realize it. I was actually understanding where they were coming from and the emotions that they were going through. And it was all pure on artwork. The artwork for me, when I'm reading this, I was actually, I don't want to say I was having dialogue in my head, but I was actually kind of having some inner dialogue. I was understanding what they were thinking on top of what they were saying.
Mm-hmm. Evil people are psychics, too.
Well, yeah, it could be that, too. But those is a great, like these Superman, the dialogue, the sequences between Diana and Batman, Diana and Clark, and all those moments where they're, just having those things. There was nothing inner dialogue telling me what they were thinking, but I was completely comfortable thinking I knew exactly where they were, how they were emotionally. And it was just, again, that was, something so cool with that artwork that I didn't realize it until now, that it really did tell me what they were thinking without actually putting the words on paper. I was like, dang, that's really impresses me.
Can you sing a portion of O'Donna? Again, I'm getting ready. There's something I want to talk about with Donna Troy.
If you want me to, I will.
I do.
O'Donna, O'Donna.
So you didn't start coughing again. I was trying to do it as a condition. I was trying to do it as a conditioning. Oh, there we go. This is a conditioning experience. I'm trying to work you out of singing. I'm sorry.
Trying to kill me, thanks, pal.
I'm sorry. I honestly thought it was going to be a couple of quick coughs, so I apologize. This just in, podcast co-host killed.
Sorry about that. No, once I started going, that was it. I'm like, I got to get up now.
I ended up pausing it because
okay.
It was I literally was making a joke about conditioning you to stop singing.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, hey, take it back. Start recording again.
I am.
Oh, okay.
We're recording right now. Listening to your demise in the background became a little cruel. Because it really was. I thought you were going to cough a couple of times. I really started to feel bad about it. It's funnier now that you're okay.
What it is when I get it going,
right.
It just hits me like a hammer.
Right.
And I gotta go through until something greenishly yellow comes, spitting out. So yeah, I love this.
I apologize. Sort of. Sort of.
Well, part of the thing that did trigger me was when I started laughing. I know. Because laughing loosens up the lungs, and that's what really gets it going. So once I started laughing, I was like, oh, that's it. I'm gone.
I wasn't thinking of that in my grand scheme.
Try to kill me.
I want to talk about Donna Troy, because do you think that we know this Donna Troy has been created for this purpose and kind of brought out of, through a magical means, been created, kind of reminiscent of her history as a character. Do you think she has free will, or is she under control, or what's going on? I keep looking at her eyes, and I keep wondering if she has an awareness of what's going on with her. I guess I want to see her eventually become Wonder Girl, is where I want this to go, but I want it to be a journey. and I'm intrigued by this. This is a piece of the lore. Like, people have been scrambling for Donna Troy to come back. And I know we're going to see, obviously, classic Donna Troy in Convergence, but I'm really liking what they're doing here with this. Like, I want to see the Donna Troy journey. I'm finding this character compelling by what she's doing.
Okay, if you go back to issue, I believe it was, I want to say 37.
Okay.
You're going to see part of the thing that was constructed her was the sacrifice, but also part of it was Hippolyta's mud, as well as some dark magic.
Right.
So I think, Donna Troy right now doesn't have free will, but I think with Hippolyta's mud being the foundation, I think she can fight through it. I think we're going to get a moment where, and it's one of those things that we both loved about the Talking Gorillas, back in the Gail Simone run, because it started off as this big, duking brawl where she's fighting the talking intelligent gorillas, but it was Diana, the intellectual leader and just the diplomat and all that, who won over the respect of the gorillas. And actually, it's stopped being a physical violence. I think we're going to get that same type of story where it's going to start off Diana, the god of war, fighting, Donna Troy, but it's going to be Diana, Wonder Woman, the Justice League member, the person who is who's probably her greatest superpower is her compassion, is her ability to love. That's what's going to win over Donna Troy. And she may have been made out of mud, but there is still, I think it's that whole, does she actually have a soul? Does Diana actually have a soul? And I think it's, I can't remember which philosopher it was, but some ancient great philosopher said that we're not born with a soul, we earn our soul through our actions. And I think Donna Troy is going to earn her soul by becoming human, by stepping up and by saying, I am not going to follow this dark path of mine. So I think eventually down the line, we're going to get Donna Troy as one of the good persons, as one of the Amazons, as an actual force of good in this universe. But I think I don't know if it's going to be immediately. I don't know if it's going to how long it's going to take, but I think that's going to be the story they're going to tell, that it's not just going to be a physical, violent beatdown between these two that resolve this. It's going to be something beyond that. I think that's, that's Wonder Woman's true strength and power, is this compassion and love. And I think that's what we're going to get out of it. And that's what I'm hoping we're going to get out of it personally, to be honest with you, because I think that for me is a greater, it would be the fight sequence is going to look cool because this creative team, but I want just that, I'm thinking that other story is going to happen.
I love the use of Hippolyta in this. I think if there's one thing I'd like to see more from this series is a continued development of the Amazons and individual Amazons. Like, I'd like to get to know more of them and their relationships with Diana, their relationships with Donna Troy. I think this story is a great opportunity to get to know a bunch of them. I love the twist of the males on this. I'd like to see what they're going to do with them and how this war is going to play out if they end up having their own place. I don't want them to be gone from the book. It would be great to see them, try to integrate into some form of society, whether it's their own or something else. I'm very curious to see where this story is going to go. There's a natural social commentary to this. Fear of the unknown, fear of what's different. They banded together because it was convenient, but now that they don't need that anymore, convenient alliances start to fizzle and fall apart. It starts to be, why do we want them here? We want to go back to the way things were before. Not understanding that the way they were before ultimately led to their downfall. It's a very interesting puzzle and conundrum. And I love that about this because it's a very complex story because of it. And that's part of what sets this book apart too. When you get into the politics of the Amazons, I want to see more of, our factions going to splinter out of this, of Amazons that go with Diana and some go with Donna. It's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out towards the end with this story. And I hope it's not as simple as the men versus the females. I would like to see it splinter off in a variety of different ways.
Yeah, I think initially we're going to get a a faction of the Amazons are going to go off with Donna Troy, or maybe Donna Troy initially takes down Wonder Woman, and she's in charge of, she's in charge of Themyscira, and she takes over. And it's, some people will remain loyal to, Diana, and they'll, escape, and there could be a whole re-siege of the island with the men, being an unknown factor, because again, if Donna Troy is 100% in power, they're dead. And they know that. And they have to, so there's going to be war there. But I could see them maybe saying, hey, let's get out of here. Let's shift into the land of men. Let's maybe go back down, and hang out with, their dad. Or, well, not their dad, technically. The Hephaestus. I always mispronounce his name. The tinker. The blacksmith.
Right.
Head back down with him. Hang out with the blacksmith. There's a lot they can do with them. That again, with there's gonna I don't think this is gonna be a cut and dry ending. But I'm kind of curious to see where this goes, because in the end, I want to see Diana there in charge. I want to see Donna Troy good. I want to see the men with them. I want to see these are the sons of the Amazons. I'd like to see male and female Amazons, together. Have and again, and it will be difficult. It will be an interesting development for them to embrace these outsiders, but who are their brothers. And it's, I kind of want to see this all happen. And I think it's some of the cool stuff they can do with the Wonder Woman title, especially this creative team. I love how they tell a story. I want more of this. This is, you think about just how you get this wonderful, awesome ending where it's just a great, cliffhanger. And who are you? I am the queen. No, you were the queen. And just getting ready for that initial battle between the two of them. The next issue is going to be a throwdown. If I may steal a line from the great Jim Ross, it's going to be a slobber knocker. I am so looking forward to Donna Troy, Diana round 1.
Did you go to turn the page after you read the last, because there was no tagline at the bottom?
Yeah.
I was literally at the end of the issue, I'm like, wait, is there another page? Is there something that I missed here? And it's not. I mean, it's clearly where it ends. But I was, I read the print copy of it, and then I downloaded the digital copy of it because I thought I was missing a page. I'm like, no, it's supposed to end there. And it shows what a creature of habit I am. I was looking for the next issue tagline or something like that, or to be continued. And I'm actually glad they didn't do it. I mean, it's a very beautiful page. And with the silhouettes there, I wouldn't want anything visually there to impede it. But it is funny how I've so conditioned to look for that. I don't know if you had that same experience, but I literally got to the end of that. I'm like, because it ends very cleanly. I mean, that's a cliffhanger, and it's a great cliffhanger. But it was such a cliffhanger that I was turning the page looking for more.
Yeah. Well, I initially read it in digital format.
Okay.
It was one of those when 39 came out. I didn't want to wait the 2 days. Mm-hmm. For it to come out, because I usually get my comics on Friday,
right?
With the delivery and all that stuff. So on Wednesday I bought the digital. So I'm reading through digital. I flipped after that scene, just like you did, and the page wasn't loading initially. I'm thinking, "Come on, load!" I remember yelling at the screen, "Load!"
It's absolutely too funny.
Oh God, yeah. And I love you talk about how there's that silhouette again. I love this artwork on this book. I'm so absolutely just, in love with how this book looks. This is an absolutely just beautiful book, wonderful meshing of art and story being told. And then, as I said, I didn't even realize we weren't getting inner dialogue balloons, because the emotions that they were telling on the faces and just everything, the story they were telling with the artwork completely filled in any gaps that I may have had, in my reading. I was like, wow, that's some super impressive stuff here.
Yeah, really, really terrific.
Green Lantern, let you and I destroy that space junk.
I want to, before we kick into voicemails, remind everyone about our show voicemail line. It's 1-440-388-4434 or Dr. Norge on Skype. And Jim, we have a voicemail this episode that I'd like to share with the show.
Hello, Mommy and Daddy. This is your doctor calling. Just seeing how you guys are doing. Okay. Okay.
Jim, I knew you were sick, but you shouldn't have your doctor calling our show. I mean, nothing to do with the podcast. Please keep your personal business off of the podcast. I was like, when I got that, we only had one voicemail, we had that. But I was like, well, I'm not going to air that. It has nothing to do with the show. But with you being sick and the fact that she was talking about doctor, I'm like, oh, I might as well throw this thing on.
Yeah.
What was that? You got to wonder,
I guess that was a misdial.
But who is she calling? And what was, yeah. But it started out like she was talking to one person, and then she said something about both of you. So I don't get it.
I don't know.
I hope she I hope she calls back.
Yes. Yeah. And yeah.
Holy caffeine!
I want to remind everyone about our show website, which is ragingbullets.com. That's the place to find out news about what's going on with the podcast. I try to update you on what's going on with recording, when we're going to be recording, and when we're going to be releasing. If there's any changes or needs to change, anything like that, I try to update the community because it's really important to let you know what's going on with the podcast and when you can expect it. So that's ragingbullets.com. It does feed our Twitter. So if you're a Twitter fan, follow us there and you can get updates on what's going on with the podcast straight from Twitter as well. We also have a Facebook page, which is a Facebook fan page. We have a Facebook group, and the Facebook group is really just a wonderful community that has grown so far beyond the podcast. It's really driven by the community. They own it. They bring it to every week. I love seeing the fact that there are these Google Hangouts that are constantly going on about various pop culture, comic chat, whatever. It's just a wonderful, safe community. If you haven't been there, go there, check it out. People have blogs and podcasts, and they shout them out there. It's just anything you want to talk about in pop culture really is going on in that group. It's not just DC, but obviously a majority of it is skewed that way because of our podcast. But I just want to shout out the community there. I go there and browse all the time, just because, trying to maintain my job and prepare for the podcast and release the podcast and all that. A lot of times I don't have the time to post there the way that I'd like to. I love going there to see what people post. We actually use the links on there, and I do want to shout out the community. Today, for example, we were talking about Convergence, and there was a Newsarama link there, and we jumped on that because our community posted. Jeremy posted it, actually, and we ended up just using that right from the Facebook group. So thank you for the things you post there. We end up using them on the show now. Our show tends to be our hub. The show Facebook group tends to be the hub, and thank you very much for all of you. You're more interactive with the show than you probably realize, so thank you for that. We also have our own personal Facebook pages, and Google Plus is also pages that we have as well. I'm on the PlayStation Network, so if you have any of the PlayStation systems and you want to add me, please feel free to do so. You can get direct links on there as well. So we love interacting with the community from the show, so please feel free to add us on any of those that you have a preference for. Sponsoring us this episode once again is DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Reminder that you can get Convergence Nightwing Oracle number 2 regularly $3.99, 40% off, only $2.39. Remember, the bundle of all those issues is 50% off. So you get extra 10% if you get the entire bundle. And that's DCBService.com. Over at InStockTrades.com, they constantly are running deals of the week. They have, I'm a big fan of those Marvel Masterworks books. Those are 50% off, only $37.50. They have the Invincible Iron Man hardcover volume 9 is there, and the Invincible Man hardcover volume 9 variant is there. So if you like the variant cover instead, you can grab that as well. Both of those are 50% off, only $37.50. They also have, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, they have the Superman Wonder Woman hardcover, Volume 2, War and Peace. That's $24.99 regularly, 42% off, only $14.49. InStockTrades.com is great. There's a lot of times where somebody will mention a book to me that I'm not currently reading or haven't had a chance to read. I will jump on it because of the fact that I can grab them over at InStockTrades.com. And, usually, when they tell me a title, like, for example, let's use the Vertigo title, FBP. Are you reading that, Federal Bureau of Physics?
No, I haven't yet.
That's a great series. They have volumes 1 and 2 50% off right now in trade paperback format. So it's a great spot to go to. And I know you do the same thing, Jim, where people will recommend a series to you, and you'll go over there and you can start grabbing multiple volumes of that series. I like to read a series that I haven't caught in multiple issue sittings. It tends to be, I tend to make time for that. It's a summer thing or a vacation thing that I tend to do, because my regular time is devoted to the books that I'm currently getting monthly. Trades and hardcovers of titles that I haven't read that I grab from In-Stock Trades tend to be for those special times when I have, a day off or something like that I can use. So I want to thank InStockTrades.com and DCBService.com for supporting our show. Our next episode, Jim, it's going to be our last episode of March. It's going to be 9 years of Raging Bullets, and we are going to be releasing our Raging Oscars. If you've been a long-time listener to the show, you know that we do this little different every year, and part of the reason why is we don't want the show ever to be monotonous when we do these. We don't want it to be something we phone in. We kind of challenge ourselves to come up with a way to have an exciting, interesting conversation. You came up with this concept this time, Jim, and I really like it. Do you want to share with the listeners kind of a little bit of what we're doing?
Sure.
I didn't mean to throw you under the bus with that one. I mean, it's very concept based this time. We're going to have a top 3 in certain categories that you came up with.
And we're kind of looking at things not just as a book title, like say, Batman or Dark or Detective Comics. We're looking at it from persona as if we are in the actual comic book universe. And some of the categories especially are, which superhero would we want to be a sidekick to? What city would we want to live in? What city would we not want to live in? What team would we want to be a part of? And same thing, what team would we not want to be a part of? And one of the ones that I think is kind of a neat concept is who's had the best year? Again, we're not talking comic book titles. We're talking the character. We're looking at it as if Sean and I are actually in the DC universe, knowing what these characters have gone through, knowing their secrets, knowing the different things that have happened. Which character are we going to say that person has had the best year or that person has had the worst year? So it's kind of, there's some open-ended stuff there but it's a definite, set categories, but also the number 3. We're not going beyond 3. We both have said we're not going to do any ties. We're not going to say, these are my top 3. This is 3. These 2 are 2. No, it's 1, 2, 3, which is, for anybody who's listened to multiple Raging Oscars, both Sean and I are very guilty of finding ways to get around that thing, get around that swerve. No, we're saying 100%. Blank is 1, blank is 2, blank is 3. And it's going to be a definite, I don't know about Sean building mine right now. I've still stuff for flip-flopping, stuff that I thought was a 1 is now a 2. Wait, it should be a 1. So there's going to be some debate going on, internal debate as well as, debate between Sean and I. We're going to talk about what our top 3 are and, see if we can figure out maybe if one of us is right and one of us is wrong, or just say what we're thinking.
One of the things that we did as a rule, too, as far as time frames on it, we discussed everything is open for the last 12 months, and that includes up to Convergence right now, figuring that, there might be things that happen in our reading between now and the Oscars, and rather saying, well, I can't make that eligible. Seeing as Convergence is a natural breaking point for the universe anyway, we're going to kind of use anything's up for grabs that's up to the actual recording of the episode. So when we do that next week, we'll be kind of sharing our thoughts over the last year in the DC universe, and that's really the point of all this: is what was the best and worst. And sometimes it's funny with I'll share this kind of generally without revealing anything. There's some things in the worst category that are from some of my favorite titles, where I'm saying somebody had their worst year, but I loved that they had their worst year.
Same here.
So I mean, it's nice. It's a nice way to frame a discussion over really what has been the best of the best reading that we've had this year. So best and worst doesn't mean we're trashing on a book. A lot of times we're talking about, oh, this character went through the ringer. I wouldn't want to be them, but I'm glad I read about him. Yeah. So it's a different way. The hardest part I'm having is the same problem we always run into. Narrowing myself down to 3 in any of these categories has been very difficult because I'm leaving out things that I don't want to leave out. But I think that's fun. It's fun to force ourselves into a top 3. The other thing I'm finding myself doing is I'm having trouble putting them in order. 1, 2, and 3. There's certain things that flip-flop where, I was 1. This was 1 at first, but then no, but really I like that more. So now it's got to flip. But wait, then again, this was better. I'm doing a lot of that. And I'm forcing myself. There's no ties. Our rule is no ties. We have to have a definitive 1, 2, and 3 for each one. And for anybody that's been a long-time listener, we're doing that on purpose because you'll probably appreciate the agony of the fact that we're trying to do this, considering the fact that we really enjoy the comics that we're reading. So it's really hard to pin down. But I think there's something important to that in this, to really kind of speak about concepts and ideas and thoughts. In many ways, I think we're going to be honoring a lot of really great material from this past year in the way that we're doing this, by really focusing, we're letting the material drive the discussion. Everything has to be based on evidence from the past year. What happened in those books this past year that made us feel that way? So good stuff. I'm excited for it. Different sort of concept for us. On that note, we will see everyone next week with the Raging Oscars, and then the week afterwards, we're on the road. We're on Convergence, actually, not the road to Convergence. We are going to be talking Convergence.
Bye!
On November 13th, Sean Whalen was asked to stop constantly talking about comic books. That request came from his wife. Deep down, he knew she was right, but he also knew that someday he would find someone that would talk to him. With nowhere else to go, he appeared at the home of his childhood friend Jim Segulin. Sometime earlier, Segulin's boss had requested that he shut up about his comic books and never speak of them again. Can two grown men put out a DC Comics podcast without driving each other crazy? It's Raging Bullets, the DC Comics fan podcast. With Sean Whalen as Dr. Norge, and Jim Segulin as the Sensei of the Whatnot and the Duke of You-Know. It's a spoiler podcast, so they will go in depth into the plot line, story twists, and whatnot of the comics they are reviewing. So if you haven't read the books, you may want to come back later so you may better enjoy the show.